Hello, and welcome to episode 23 of Press X to Podcast. I am your sonorous host, Christopher Willingham. Today I'm joined by Andy Conan.
Hello.
James Foppel.
Hello.
And all the way from Minnesota, Josiah Benedict.
Hello.
And welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And welcome.
Good to be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming all of this way.
Just for you, Chris.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Josiah here is a fan of the podcast and is in town for the weekend, so he thought he would stop by and say hi.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we knew each other back in the day.
Yes, there's that too. But the most important thing is that he likes me.
But if you're a fan on the podcast and you come into St. Louis, drop us a line, and
Yeah.
maybe we'll put you on our show.
Oh, I thought it was
Maybe.
special.
Well, you are.
I am.
You're the first fan.
Well, after Jeff, I guess. But
Well, Jeff was not really a fan. I don't think Jeff likes us.
Oh.
He just enjoys talking at us.
Gotcha.
So, monumental moment, I guess, in the podcast. We're videotaping this and maybe putting it on YouTube. So you could be on YouTube watching me look at my phone and read to you notes.
Until I flag you for a copyright violation.
Great. Yeah, I am purposely going to put Metallica songs on the podcast so that we get flagged for copyright
Yes.
violation.
You pick the one band that's more likely to flag you for copyright violations than anything.
Yes, sir. All right, today we are going to talk at you about whatever the hell these guys want to talk at you about, because the only topic I have is the Desolation of Smaug, or Smaug.
It's smog.
It's whatever.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I've got very little structure to impose on this episode, and I apologize in advance for any haphazardness. So, yeah, what you guys been up to? Who wants to start?
Oh, well, I don't know.
Or Mike.
I've not been up to much. Should I talk about that comic book thing right now?
Yeah, let's go with
Okay.
the Inhumans.
So, yeah,
Sure.
there's this comic book event that just started in Marvel that I've been reading. I think, like, the first issue came out a couple weeks ago, and it's written by Matt Fraction, so I like him a lot. But it's called Inhumanity, and the quick summary of it would be that during the last Marvel event, Infinity, Black Bolt, who's the leader of the Inhumans, set off this bomb called the Terrigenesis Bomb, which unleashes Terrigen mists across the planet, which, if you don't know much about Marvel, I guess, canon, there are these creatures called the Inhumans. They're like a product of alien testing, basically like X-Men, but a different word, where each one has like a special power that gets awakened when they are exposed to the Terrigen mists.
Yeah, they were kind of like the forerunner mutants, right? Correct?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know if they actually came out before the X-Men or not.
Don't they tend to be really secretive, too?
Yeah, they're very secretive.
I don't know if they were created before the X-Men, but I know that, like, I think they were supposed to be around way before, like,
yeah,
mutants
like
on Earth.
thousands of years earlier. But, so there was this big thing where Thanos was coming to Earth to find one of his children, because he's had a bunch of illegitimate children across the universe. One of them was an Inhuman. And so, to hide, I guess, Thanos' child, Black Bolt detonates this bomb, wakes up Inhumans all across the world, basically turns it from a couple thousand people Thanos has to look through to like millions. And so now there are millions of Inhumans all around the planet with all these new special powers, basically like mutants. And there's some speculation, that is all just speculation, that Marvel is doing this in the comics right now, so that in the future, if they make an Inhumans movie, they can use this as like an excuse to have mutants in their universe without using the word mutant or X-Men, because they don't own those
Yeah,
rights.
because Fox has them.
Which like got me thinking, I would not be surprised if when Avengers rolls around, I would not be surprised to see that Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch just being Inhumans instead of mutants.
Yeah, that could work.
That would be...
Leave it to Marvel to think in the future for their movie franchise.
The event's only one issue in. I don't know how I feel about it yet, but it's basically, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, so far
pretty neat.
the Inhuman event is where Black Bolt basically destroys the city with the word "no," right?
Right. Well, that was
So-
that was like what set off the bomb in Infinity, and then
Right.
yeah, Black Bolt's power is his voice is like a destructive force, and if he says anything at all,
He must have been an awful child to raise.
well, that's the thing. They don't usually go through the Terrigenesis that awakens their power until like adulthood.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You said it like blew Thanos' clothes off.
Yeah,
Did
like
they
it
have his
tore
like,
all. No, like
his
he
thing
still had his
covered up?
pants on, but like it blew all of his
indestructible pants?
blew all of his,
Thanos porn.
yeah, it blew all of his armor off and like shredded all his clothes and.
Who do you think you are, Zack Snyder, giant penises?
Jesus. All right. Well, I think that event sounds rather cool, but that's not going to...
cool.
If that enters the movies, it's not going to be for like 6 years, probably.
Right.
It's almost a little nervous to think that they're trying to write comics to make movies, though.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
They've already started this one.
they did the Age of Ultron event, and then they revealed that, like, right when that event ended, that Avengers 2 is going to be called Age of Ultron. It doesn't have anything to do with the story of Age of Ultron.
Yeah, that was because we didn't thought Age of Ultron sounded like a cool title.
That's basically it.
Yeah, that's what he said.
They
awesome.
just changed the costume of Star-Lord in the comics to match what Star-Lord's going to look like in the movie.
Yeah, and now War Machine is Iron Patriot now in the comics, with no
Right.
explanation of why. He just
And,
is.
he looks
So-
like Don Cheadle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's already happening.
Yeah.
You know, because the fans of the movies who are like, oh, I want to check out the comic, they want to have it there. And like the whole Nick Fury thing that we were talking
Nick
about.
Fury's
not long
son
ago.
now, who
Yeah.
is Samuel L. Jackson, despite that actual Nick Fury in the Ultimate Universe looking like Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
quite a bit.
They actually based it on Samuel L. Jackson and asked his permission to use his likeness in these comic books 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they've been thinking ahead of time for marketing purposes for a long time now. Like, they've been building up this empire and tying the movies and comic books together so they could boost sales on both. It's smart. I mean, that's why
It is.
Marvel...
It's very.
That's why Marvel can compete with DC, is they take DC ideas and they add them to the genius marketing that they have.
There's actually this really great panel in the first Ultimates book from, like, 2001 where they're asking each other who would play them in a movie, and Nick Fury says, well, Samuel L. Jackson, of course, no one else. Like,
Great. What's the next topic? James, you wanted to talk about the TV show?
Well, real quick, still on the Marvel thing, they just did the Amazing Spider-Man reveal of like what they're planning on doing with all the movies.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
We
talk
should
about
bring that up a little
That
bit.
is important, yeah. Other than just the trailer being released
Yes.
for The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Looks good.
And then
Yeah.
they're planning on doing Amazing Spider-Man 3 and then the 2 villain movies? Or
It's
is
not
it,
really clear when the villain movies are going to happen.
Oh, yeah, that's
they're
right. There's
gonna
like a Venom and...
there's going to be a Venom and a Sinister Six
Sinister
movie.
Six, that's
There's
right.
going to be
Which is
4
pretty
Spider-Man
cool.
movies altogether, and then the 2 villain movies to
Yeah.
make it a 6-movie series, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
But there's no word yet on the order after this second movie.
Yeah.
See, I would think, though, that they would probably do it after the third one because they only have Andrew Garfield for 3 of them so far.
Right.
I'm sure he's going to sign on for another one. As we were saying, what
You
was
would
your
hope,
quote,
but-
Andy?
yeah, like what else does a 30-year-old man who looks like he's 15 have to do?
Yeah. Yeah, but
He
be
could be in still a
Spider-Man.
bunch of teen movies.
Right.
They could always kill him and bring in Miles Morales.
Yeah. I did just also realize that they have the release date set for all 4 Spider-Man movies. So I don't know if they'd put the Venom and Sinister Six movies between those and do it like yearly instead of every other year.
Like like Disney's plan with Star Wars,
Yeah.
where
something
every
like
other
that.
year is a main series movie, and then the years in between are minor character stories,
Like
like the
spin-offs,
Boba Fett
yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
That would make
Boba
sense
Fett
for
and
like
Solo.
Assassin's Creed. Amazing Spider-Man 2, then like Venom, Amazing Spider-Man 3, Sinister Six, and then 4 ending it all with like the Sinister Six fighting Spider-Man and Venom teaming up or something like that.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Because I do know they said they wanted 4 to be like a big Avengers-style team-up. So I think they're just going to try to introduce as many heroes as they have the rights to with Spider-Man, which would basically be like Venom as an anti-hero, maybe Ben Reilly, like Scarlet Spider if they wanted to do that.
No, Marvel Studios is doing this one, right?
No, this is Sony.
This is
Yeah,
Sony.
Sony,
Yeah.
Okay.
Columbia,
So this
TriStar,
wasn't
whatever.
going to tie into like Daredevil and Luke Cage or
No.
any of that then.
Unfortunately not. There have been like talks where they wanted to get little deals in there. There was going to be for a while the Oscorp Tower was going to be in the background of the Avengers, but then like that deal fell through. They didn't get it finished in time, and so it ended up not happening.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
It's got to be hard to bring those 2 studios together
Yeah.
for such a thing.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm sure they'll work together one day when they realize they have to.
A lot of
People
industry
are
talk
tired.
says that when Sony's done making these Spider-Man movies, Marvel's going to make them a really big offer, and they're just going to give Spider-Man
Yeah,
back.
it's Disney. I mean, they'll
Yeah.
have so much fucking money to
Yeah,
throw
but
at these guys.
well, the way mergers work, I don't think they're going to have the ability to recoup all their losses that quickly. I think it is going to be a bit, like close to a decade before they make that offer. Because they spent so much money on LucasArts.
Yeah.
Well, not just LucasArts, like
Lucasfilm,
Lucasfilm,
yeah.
which is
All of it.
everything.
I think they're going to
including-
make that money back quick.
Yeah,
though.
I mean, when you buy the Star Wars and the Indiana Jones
Oh
series.
yeah, they got Indiana Jones recently.
Yeah, that's not, a lot of people don't realize that Indiana Jones is now a Disney product as well.
Well, that happens separately.
They also
and
have
much
Willow. Come on!
Do they have Willow? Holy
It's
shit.
a Lucas.
If
Lucas
they
film.
bring Willow back, that would
That'd
be
be
fucking
fucking amazing.
awesome. I would drop all the things that I'm doing just to go see Willow.
That'd be
I will
hilarious.
see Willow a dozen times in theaters if I can.
Yeah, the only two other. Well, there was a couple other Lucasfilm movies, but like Labyrinth was Lucasfilm with Jim Henson Productions.
Didn't
combined.
they do wasn't George Lucas a producer on the first Land Before Time or something like that?
Don't
I
know.
think he was. It wasn't a Lucasfilm movie, but I remember
Yeah, it wasn't,
finding
it
out.
didn't have the tag.
Yeah.
It was actually a tie-in to the Star Wars Christmas special. It turned
They need to remake that.
Yeah, that would be great. Just as bad as the first. Let's not make it better.
Yes, it should be just as awful.
All right, James, that TV show you've been
Yes.
trying to convince
Oh,
everybody
yes,
to watch.
Almost Human with Carl Urban on Fox. It's
Oh, it's going to be canceled. All right, we don't need to talk about this.
Sci-fi
People
show
will
on
forget
Fox?
about it.
Never mind.
Yeah. It won't have a cult following after it gets canceled in 2 weeks.
it's a Bad Robot production.
Yeah, J.J. Abrams.
From Abrams, and it's from J.H. Wyman, the guy who brought you Fringe, and it's got a very Fringe feel to it. It's set in the near future, like 2040 something. Very Blade Runner, Total Recall kind of feel to it.
It deals with androids, doesn't it?
Right.
Yes, every officer is teamed up with a android, and I mean, like they have
Like as their
artificial intelligence that's pretty out of this world.
Would you say they're almost human?
Well, most of them aren't, because they've actually downgraded, because they used to have a little bit more sentient
But they were too
partners, but
smart.
they kind of went to the little bit over emotional.
Oh, okay.
And Carl Urban does not like being teamed up with these things, and he loves throwing them out of his car and stuff. And he's teamed up with one of these older models that's more intelligent and is pretty witty, and they play off each other fantastically. And there's just been a lot of little homages. This episode I just recently watched had the Blade Runner umbrellas in the
right.
episode.
Yeah.
They were in kind of a more rundown district, like the red light district, and there's people walking around with the neon light umbrellas, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
You said there were some Dread references or something?
Yes, because they've never said anything about when they send people to prison, what the prison cells are called, and he says that's gonna get you 10 years in the cubes. That's yes.
Nice.
He didn't say ISO cubes, but that's also
Right.
they would just sometimes short it and say cubes in the comics and stuff.
Did John Noble show up in there at some point?
No,
I was watching something and I saw John Noble flash by the screen, but I don't know what it was
John
recently.
Noble. That's
Fringe, the old guy from
okay.
Fringe.
Yeah. I thought so. I was just making sure.
I don't remember what it was though.
So far, I mean, a lot of your what do you call them? When these police dramas like this, even Fringe will have an overarching story, and it's kind of odd. It's kind of refreshing, even the fact that there really isn't an overarching story yet to the show.
episodic.
It's just episodic,
That's
which is
pretty
pretty unusual.
Yeah.
and
Especially
so
these days.
You don't get that much anymore, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, really the only
But I mean,
kind
there's,
of thing they haven't told you about was his backstory, which they've kind of kept a few.
but there's
things
a
secret.
rather linear character development arc, I'm guessing.
Yes, yeah, I mean,
So maybe that's just what it's focusing on, just a character development drama.
basically so far they've been developing all the characters on the show, and that's been fine with me.
Well, that sounds interesting. That might be a refreshing take. Part of the reason, and I know you guys hear me go on whenever we talk about Star Trek about why I like Deep Space Nine the best, and it's because of the story arcs.
It's just because it's the best.
Well, there's that too. Thank you for agreeing with me. You're gonna come on the show more now.
That's right. I was going to suck up to you the whole time.
Most boring Deep Space Nine.
Shut your face, James.
Until they started going into the Alpha Quadrant, or Delta Quadrant.
that really picked up. But when Gul Dukat went crazy, that was...
It even gets it gets worse because oh god, the Kai also goes crazy at the same. Well, the Kai was always kind of crazy, but then her and Gul Dukat go crazy together.
Yeah.
And then the Delta Quadrant starts blowing up, or not Delta, Gamma, I believe. Is that
No,
where they go?
it was Alpha or Delta, and then the other one was for Voyager.
Delta is
Zeta.
where Voyager goes.
Okay, then
Gamma.
it was Alpha.
It was
Quadrant.
Gamma Quadrant. I
Alpha
believe.
Quadrant's where Earth is,
Yeah.
isn't it?
No.
Yeah.
That's
It
pretty
is.
Earth-centric of us.
Yeah. Yeah, we're
Look up Deep Space Nine right now.
They just
you
they just
big fan,
gave
you.
it to the humans. They're like, all right, humans, you're gonna have
Is
the
it the Gamma
center
Quadrant?
of the Alpha Quadrant.
Maybe it
I
is the
believe
Gamma
it's the
Quadrant.
Gamma Quadrant.
No, I can't even.
Yeah.
Well, podcast.
Yes, podcast. Back to the podcast. Anyway, part of the reason I'm getting burned out, it's weird that I'm getting burned out on Marvel, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I just realized I haven't watched the last
Yeah,
two
I'm
or three
like-
episodes.
Yeah, I just realized that too.
I'm like 4 episodes behind. It's
Yeah.
not a bad show, but it's so intensive storyline.
Which is
that-
also kind of a police procedural is what
Yeah.
the word I was thinking of. And that's also
Yes.
that same vein where it feels a lot like Fringe in a sense, where it has all the superhuman things each week, for
Right.
the week. Whereas Almost Human was like future, like some of the things that are happening are like future crimes, and it's really cool to see.
Yeah, that might be interesting though, just to have that episodic back. Have they explained why they all have android partners? Like, is there an android sect to society where they require that?
It's kind of like Dread in kind of a certain setup that crime is getting pretty prevalent, and it's very futuristic, tech. So for the police to even keep up with these guys, they need androids that can spot the shit.
So to
and
protect the agents themselves.
Exactly. They are bodyguards, and they are, able to spot things, that police can't spot. They can
That's
scan
pretty
the areas and things, and yeah, they're definitely bullet catchers. Like,
Intercept signals. Yeah, because
Well,
if you...
last episode, one of the dummy partners took a shot to the fucking head and was still active.
Yeah.
That's pretty intense. Like, are the graphics in the show pretty good?
Oh, the special effects are movie quality in this show,
Okay.
which is fantastic.
Well, it is a bad robot, so you wouldn't put it past them. I'm guessing there's also a lot of lens flares coming out of the robot's heads.
No, I haven't seen any crazy lens flares.
But
You ever heard-
it is a comedy, right? Like, it's a comedy drama.
It is most definitely a drama, but like I said, the banter back and forth between Carl Urban and his partner, I can't think of the actor's name.
It's like any buddy cop action movie.
They are fantastic, yes.
Any good buddy cop
So
action movie.
good chemistry between the two.
Yeah, I
of
mean,
them.
just picture Carl Urban like, McCoy, like his McCoy kind of character where he's just really dry and grumpy, like how Carl Urban is in a lot of his movies.
By the way, he is an amazing McCoy.
Oh, yeah. He's just like that in this show, and then his partner Dorian just plays off him completely, just like constantly just poking at him, and it's great.
All right, well, I guess I know what I'm doing after this podcast is over. Other than playing Euro Truck Simulator 2 Gold,
The Gold Edition.
the European trucking
wheel?
simulator game with the wheel that we have. Which you can find video of on our YouTube page.
Haha,
which
plug,
you
plug.
actually may be seeing this on.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway, anything else? Got any other topics, you two, before we move on to Josiah here?
Well, one thing made me think back about the Spider-Man trailer real quick, being released, because it really upset me when they released that they were tossing in all these villains again, just like how Spider-Man 3 did, and that really pissed me off. And then they showed in Oscorp's building Vulture's wings and the Dr. Octopus's tentacles, and I was like, son of a bitch, what the hell are they doing? They're just gonna just throw a million pieces of
That's just set up for the future.
But see, that's the thing. They didn't release that news until well after the trailer was released. So now I'm happier about the trailer that they're setting up for future films instead of just
and it does sound like
throwing
a
bunch
lot
of crap in there.
a lot of the villains that are popping up in this movie are only going to be in the first half hour and basically be Spider-Man cleaning up the streets.
That's
I really hope so.
That's what I had heard about. Like I forget who said it, but it was like Rhino in this movie was going to be like the first 15 minutes to a half hour of the movie, and it's just going to be like an example of what this is what Spider-Man does now. He swings around the city.
And then they shrink him down and put him on a keychain.
Yeah.
I love the clip of Paul Giamatti just firing the assault rifle into the air at Spider-Man, screaming manically.
It turns out that like as great and respected of an actor as Paul Giamatti is, this is apparently his dream role. Like he's been a comic book fan his entire life.
Oh, really?
And
I wouldn't have
Rhino's
guessed that
his
one.
favorite villain.
Yeah.
And, like,
Rhino's his favorite villain.
That's a really random favorite villain.
Yeah.
Huge Spider-Man fan, huge Rhino fan.
Yeah, and so like this is
I
like
can't wait.
he was so excited to have this role, and I'm just excited to see that because I think he's a tremendous actor,
Oh,
and
yeah,
I want to see what
definitely.
he looks like when he's having.
Well, anybody
fun.
who's seen the John Adams miniseries knows how good of an actor he is.
Or the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes.
I wonder if he actually likes the fact though that he's in like a robotic suit.
I'm sure he's gonna love it.
Yeah.
I love his bald head and the tattoo around his head.
Yeah,
Like,
he's just supposed to be like a Russian mobster. They say who
he is wearing a
the suit.
tracksuit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he's wearing a tracksuit.
Is he gonna say
Has to be a
bro?
Russian mobster.
He's gonna say bro.
Right.
Bro.
Hey, bro. Hey, man.
Hey, bro.
Wait, is it Jamaican or Russian?
I don't know. Shut up. I don't do voices.
Yeah, Chris, we've established this before.
You want to get in on this pre-Hobbit talk, Josiah?
Yeah, did you want me to touch on the PS4 stuff?
Yeah, go ahead and talk about what you've been doing lately.
I got a PS4 on release day, and I've been putting some time into it. I got Killzone, Battlefield, Need for Speed, and Assassin's Creed. I put a lot of time into Killzone and Battlefield so far.
You were saying Assassin's Creed you don't think feels next-gen?
I've heard a lot. It does look good. It's a good-looking game. The water physics are incredible.
Yeah.
And the lighting is great. But I just feel there's a lot of jaggedy edges in the graphics on it.
I would agree with you.
There's a lot of clipping issues.
I played it a lot at my brother's house, and I would agree. It feels basically like Assassin's Creed 3. I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily.
Not necessarily, no.
But yeah, I would agree with that.
Right.
But Killzone is beautiful, and I actually really enjoed the way the campaign ended. It had a really good ending to it. They did something kind of different
on Earth, right?
No, it's like a different jewel.
Well,
planet.
it's a different universe, so it'd be Vecton.
Oh well,
which is
I mean
Earth, and
right. I didn't know
it's
that.
the human home planet, though, right?
It's in the future, and there's it's basically if you took Berlin in during the Cold War with the wall down the middle. They put a wall down the middle and put the space Nazis on one side, the Helghast on one side, and the Vectin on the other side.
I didn't know that. I didn't know
because the Vectins blew up the Helghast homeworld in
in 3,
and so all the refugees live on one side of this wall, and then Vectins on the other side, and so the Helghast side's all grimy and poor and industrial, and the Vectin side is all clean and skyscrapers and waterfalls and
don't the Helghast start like launching a terrorist campaign?
Yeah, it's there's like terrorist attacks and there's uprisings, and it's a Killzone storyline. I mean, I played pretty much all the Killzone games except for 3. I played like Mercenary though, and the Vita was really good. But I mean, Killzone storylines are kind of it's space Nazis versus.
It's the same tug of war match over and over again, just to keep the series going.
But some of the stuff they do, I think, is really interesting as far as the effects of war, especially in this one with like the way it ends. I won't like talk about it, but the way it ends really kind of. I just finished Spec Ops, so I was in that like violence affects your life mindset.
I think we were talking
finished
about that recently.
And so it and that game just changes the way you look at violence in video games. And the end of this, I think really played into how people live violent lives and what that affects. But as far as the PS4, one of my favorite things that Killzone does is when you launch the PS4, it's got the crossbar.
Yeah.
And the first one is like the disc you have in. And if you like essentially click on it and go down, it says like what you've done recently. And with Killzone, you can launch straight into a multiplayer match from the start menu of the PS4.
That's freaking sweet.
And Battlefield doesn't do it. Nothing else does it.
Battlefield, the game that is multiplayer, essentially.
That doesn't do it, but
that's a design issue.
Well, but I think part of what Killzone is they're showing people what they can do with the PS4.
Exactly.
You can do this.
It's a PS3. I mean, it's PS4 exclusive.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, it's Guerrilla Games. I mean, they had input on the design of the PS4, but it's cool because you can just be like, it'll bring up the last multiplayer play mode you were playing, and you can just click on that, and it launches you straight into matchmaking.
That's pretty cool.
Not always though. I don't know why it doesn't always do it.
It could just be defective.
Sometimes it kicks you out into the menu.
Yeah, I would say like a connection error, not being able to find.
It's understandable it doesn't do it every time, but it does do it, and it works really slick. And games launch really fast on the PS4, which is really nice. Like Killzone, there isn't any even like press X to play. It's just straight into the menus, like just ready to go. And that I really like. So a lot of that's been really good. And Need for Speed is beautiful on it.
Yeah, you were talking about that. It's actually at 1080.
Yeah, it runs at 1080, 30 frames per second, and it's just a stunning game visually. And the audio, all the reviews talk about the audio too. Like it's almost shocking at first.
The car sounds better.
The car sounds, and when you crash into a car, I mean, you almost feel it. It sounds so good. It's really cool.
Well, that is a nice deviation from what most racing games do, which is not letting you feel the crash at all, basically.
Yeah.
Because, you get to hit that car. Isn't that fun?
Yeah,
or you get to hit that car and nothing happens.
Your car's all broken now.
Yeah. But you still drive at the same speed.
Yeah, it's Need for Speed. Yeah. I was trying to figure out if the damage really affects how you drive, but you can blow out your tires, and that's a pain.
Are there cops in this one?
Oh yeah, it's open world, and there's a full cop campaign and a full racer campaign.
Well, you actually play as the cops.
You can play as the cops.
Which is this game? What is this one titled?
Rivals. Need for Speed Rivals.
Okay.
And it came out, I think, on the day that the PS4 released. It came out in November, and the cop campaign is kind of cool because by default, it forces you to play multiplayer. But so it's like a multiplayer campaign. So they have 6 people in the open world running around, and they can be either cops or racers. So you can basically switch over to a cop and just troll your friends. Like, they can be mid-race. They can be like mid-race, and you can spawn on them and then try and run them down while they're trying to win a race to complete their challenge to level up.
Well, that sounds like fun.
So yeah, there's a lot of cool potentials for
that
it.
game.
Well, I look forward to The Crew, which is not something I say because I don't typically look forward to driving games unless it's Euro Truck Simulator 2 Gold Edition.
Are they paying you?
No, but I did get the game for $6, so I feel like I owe them a little bit.
You insert Gold Edition every time. That's the killer right there.
But like I do really look forward to the Crew, which is supposed to have, I want to say, like 3,000 miles of driving road in this open world America. It's obviously not like the U.S. is 3,000 miles from California to the East Coast. And
I'm just thinking like
that's just a straight shot. So 3,000 miles to drive in the entire U.S. is actually not that much if you think about it when they're claiming that you get to drive the whole U.S. So they are leaving out a lot. And the map is slightly warped, so it doesn't look all that great. But they do have like Miami, I think, is a rather large city that you can drive through. And then you can drive from Miami all the way to California, all the way across like Route 66, and then get into LA, and then drive around LA. And there's people on this map the entire time while this is all going on. Wow. Because it's not only single player, but like, I don't know how they're explaining how this is going to happen. Kind of like Grand Theft Auto, I guess, where you exist in the universe, and there's other people around, and they don't overload it so much that you're constantly running into people.
Yeah, that's kind of how Need for Speed is, because it's a fairly big open map, which I like the open world racing, because instead of like finishing a race and getting kicked out to a menu and blah, 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 you just keep going, and if there's a cop chasing you, you still got a lot, you still got to keep moving. And the point system is really interesting because it's pretty easy. I know you guys have been talking a lot about the DLC with cars and microtransactions. It's pretty easy to buy the cars as you unlock them. But there's a real big risk reward factor because you only get your points if you get back to your hideout. But if you get busted, you lose all your points.
That's rough. By
the cops. And you get multipliers for your points, based on how crazy you drive. So you can run up, I walked in with 200,000 points at one point, which is like almost any car straight up after like 20 minutes of play. But sometimes you get busted and you lose 50,000 points that you had banked up. But I think that they made the progression balanced for that because they knew that was going to happen. So it's not backbreaking, but it puts a little extra edge to it, especially when you're trolling your friends.
Right, I was going to say, when somebody's trolling you.
And you show up, it says above your head how high of like a wanted level you have, so that kind of implies that you have more points.
Do the cops get more points out of taking down people with a higher wanted level? Okay.
Yeah, they do. I haven't played the cop campaign yet, because, I mean, the racer campaign is pretty cool. But it does say that they get like more points the higher wanted level you have and everything. And some of the nicer cars start with a above base wanted level. Like, I just bought one of the faster cars, and I start with a 3 wanted level just out the door every time.
Out of what, like 5?
10, I think.
Okay.
But a lot of the early cars start with 1 wanted level, and so starting with 3, I mean, still puts you...
But if you start with 3, that's a higher multiplier, right?
No, you don't start with the multiplier higher, though, this time.
So it's just the wanted level.
You just have a higher wanted level, so it's just better for the cops to bust you right off the bat.
Sounds like you should start playing the cop campaign, then.
Yeah, I need to take a look at that. And the cops don't have to buy their cars. They get their cars for free, and there's 3 versions. At least the one, like the intro for the cop campaign, there's 3 versions of each car. You can get like an undercover version, like a beefier version for running people off the road, and a faster version.
Is the undercover version actually undercover with like
it's
low profile
lights? Car. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. That would be a lot of fun to screw.
But I don't know how much. Yeah, I don't know how much you can entrap people with that because you show up on the mini map, I think, as a cop. So I don't know. I really don't know what the benefit of the undercover car is, but it's really cool.
If they're just not paying attention to the mini map, which I know some people.
It's really hard to pay attention to the mini map with how you're doing 170 miles an hour flying down the road,
right, dodging cars.
But it sucks because every once in a while I'll lose a race because I take a wrong turn because the on-screen GPS is really minimal, but you can't watch the mini-map and try to drive at the same time. So every once in a while I lose a race because I take a wrong turn because I didn't understand where the race course was going versus just the roads.
Sounds like problems I have in Euro Truck Simulator 2 Gold.
But you can also,
Sorry,
screw with
had
people,
to.
and if you get hit with an EMP, your minimap goes down. So
there's an EMP in the game?
there's an
All
EMP
right.
in the game, and there's spike
Jesus.
strips,
That's
and there's
amazing.
The spike strips was always the most fun.
mines,
Yeah, and the most
all
wanted
kinds of
series.
stuff. And you can get on your tablet and screw with people on your tablet.
yeah.
See, that's
You can
a
troll
thing.
people on your tablet. I was actually doing that yesterday, like, oh, now you don't have any ammo anymore,
Yeah.
and it rewards you for trolling people. So I'm like, okay.
I'm actually
I'll
really
take a free car.
interested in the next gen tablet integration
Mm-hmm.
because the Tom Clancy game, The Division,
Yeah,
it
that
had
was really
heavily
cool.
tablet integrated. And they don't have to be like iPads, just any tablet from what I
Android,
phone.
I was on my phone. I mean, Android is supporting a lot of it.
And are they all free apps, or do you have to
Yeah.
buy them?
Yeah, because I've used it. I used the battle log on Battlefield 4 to switch out my loadouts in between matches sometimes.
Now that would be great. I need to see if the PC has that ability because
I'll see, like, if I see Operation Locker come up on my load screen, I'm like,
Fucking
quick, switch
Operation
into
Locker's
a
awesome.
shotgun speed loadout, and I quick just do it on my phone, and so it's right there as soon as the level launches.
Locker is so fucking intense.
It's a
the
nice
best level.
break from the rest of the maps.
Yeah.
You know, I tried some of the China Rising maps, but
Flood Zone's my favorite.
I got it.
outside
Flood Zone's
of
cool.
Locker.
Flood Zone's really cool.
I got really good at Flood Zone to where I get myself on a building and I just wait for the other team to take that map or the control point right at the base of the skyscraper, and then I just parachute down into this little gap and I sit there and I shotgun them all. I'm like, all right, flag's mine. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, there's some great maps on that. So.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess we should move on to Hobbit at this point. We're actually already half an hour in, which I
Right.
did not expect.
This
Yeah, I
should
may
be
have
just
to
fine.
roll out after. A
Yeah,
little
you
bit
can
here.
leave mid topic. That's
Oh,
all right.
thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks. You can
it's
leave.
happened
It's
before.
fine. We don't need you.
Yeah, you're not trapped. I'll raise the bars on the stairs. So, The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. It is part 2 in the Hobbit trilogy and part 5 in the entire Peter Jackson Tolkien movie series. As is no surprise to anybody, it's number 1 at the box office this weekend.
What?
Shocking.
No
It's
way.
opening weekend, yeah.
What else even is there?
Tyler Medea's.
Oh my God.
Tyler
Tyler
Medea's
Medea's.
Blaxploitation 5.
That's all you gotta say. But yeah.
I like the Boondocks take on Medea.
Was it Ian?
Yeah,
that
Ian
posted-
went to Rotten Tomatoes to buy his Hobbit tickets, and the first thing that popped up was an ad for the new Tyler
Yeah, no,
Medea movie.
it was actually an ad for like what you should see at the box office this weekend,
Right.
and the very first thing was the Medea movie, and then Hobbit: Desolation of Smaug. And it's like, wow, you guys must have been paid by the Tyler Perry people.
Oh, Tyler
Very
Perry, that's
Medea
it.
Christmas.
Yeah,
I missed
that's
it.
what they were.
Whatever
We thought you were
advertising.
just being
It is this
sarcastic.
time.
No, I was actually.
It turns
confused.
out that Medea's Christmas was actually written by Tolkien as well, prior to the Lord of the Rings
It's
series.
a very yeah.
Fun
I
fact.
didn't know he was a
Yeah.
blaxploitation writer.
You're Kai.
Yeah. So it actually brought in 127 million worldwide, which beats out all of the Lord of the Rings movies on opening weekends. Every single one of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Even Return of the King.
Well, okay.
Even only by like 1 million. did
You're
it
not
beat Return of the
adjusting
King.
for IMAX
No.
and 3D though. And stuff
Yeah,
like
we were
that.
talking
This
about
is true.
that.
Adjusting for inflation, but not adjusting for
Yeah.
the IMAX and stuff.
Ticket prices.
Right.
doubled.
But still,
Yeah,
that's impressive.
That is. No, I'm not saying it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
They
got.
should release like number of tickets sold. That would be a lot
They
more
will
accurate.
never, ever do that.
Yeah.
They will never do
So
that.
much more sensational.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars. were
Yeah.
spent.
Well, kind of like how Xbox One was like, we sold 1 billion copies to realtors.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it currently has a 74 on Rotten Tomatoes, which is actually kind of a surprise, but I'll get into later the problems people have with it.
Yeah.
Right now, description of the movie. The Desolation of Smaug brings back fan favorite Legolas, which is
Yeah.
a pretty nice addition to the movie. Mm-hmm. It also introduces Smaug, obviously, and that is the dragon that sits on all of the gold and jewels of Erebor, which was the seat of the throne of the Dwarven Kingdom. Am I correct
So
there?
they didn't even make it to him in the first movie?
No.
No.
Wow.
No,
It's-
they make it to...
it's really
The troll, they get past like the trolls and that's it.
Well,
Yeah,
there's
they-
a fun thing about that where they interviewed Benedict Cumberbatch, like back when it was only supposed to be 2 movies, and they asked him when he was going to show up. He was like, I don't know that I'm going to be in the first movie. I'd imagine if it were up to me, I would probably like have them see the mountain, and then maybe the very last shot of the movie would be like my eye opening, and then that's exactly how it ended up happening in the movie. That was just his guess. But
They get dropped off by the eagles on a mountain, and then there's the mountain in the distance, and
Yeah.
then there's the dragon.
the camera
those
tracks
those
towards
damn eagles
Yeah.
dropping people off all
Yeah.
the time.
Way short of their destination.
It's like, why did you
Fuck
do it?
Eagles.
So, the story if you're not familiar with it, it follows Bilbo Baggins, who is played by Martin Freeman, and his pal Gandalf the Grey. I'm going to call him his pal because it sounds great that way. It's a buddy comedy. And Gandalf is played again by Ian McKellen, who is great. And actually, I noticed this in the movie. He's looking a little bit worse for wear in the Gandalf album. They make him look a lot older in this movie, I feel. Or it could just be all the close-ups that they did.
Well, I mean, he is a lot older.
This is true, but like the makeup, it almost looks like the makeup is making him look more despaired and tired. Yeah, like he's got darker circles under his eyes. It's not as a happy-looking Gandalf. He's not even slightly happy in this movie.
I mean, did you see him on The Daily Show recently? He didn't act very old on The Daily Show. Because he seemed pretty spry.
Yeah, exactly. That would be the word I would describe him with, is spry. The voice as Smaug.
Patrick Stewart drinking together.
Yes.
Yeah. They're putting pictures up of that.
I love how they're best buds.
Yeah. Back to the story. I forgot about this. Bilbo and Gandalf are followed by 13 dwarves, and that group is led by Dwarven King Thorin Oakenshield, who's technically not a king, but he's the heir to the throne, which is the whole purpose of getting back to Erebor and uncovering, I cannot remember the name of the jewel. What is the jewel?
Arkenstone.
Yeah, the Arkenstone. The big glowy white thing that Benedict Cumberbatch's dragon is sitting on.
Because it's shiny.
Because
That's
it is
dragons
shiny.
do.
He actually, I noticed in the movie, he seems very uncaring about the jewel. Like,
he doesn't care about the jewel at all. He just likes the gold.
That's the way it was in the book too.
Red dragons love gold.
He just likes shiny things.
Mm-hmm. Right, but like he still like doesn't want them to have it. But as it's bouncing around the chamber, he just like doesn't care.
He's just playing with his food.
Like, dragons are supposed to be like the embodiment in Middle Earth of greed. There's like a passage when he escapes from the mountain in the book. The passage is like he flies off with the rage of a rich person who has lost something that they've just discovered that they've lost something that they've had for a long time and never needed but want badly.
Oh yeah, I remember that line. That was really good.
Something like, I'm paraphrasing, that's not the
I remember that. That was really good.
I mean, Thorin Oakenshield is played by Richard Armitage, by the way, which you really probably don't know from anything other than Captain America, First Avenger, where he shoots the scientist whose name I'm drawing a blank on. What is it? Erskine. And then he goes, "You will never stop Hydra," and then bites the poison tablet.
Also, he was Bravo Fighter Pilot 1 in Star Wars The Phantom Menace.
Yeah. He's actually a pretty decent actor, but he's not been in much before.
He's been in a lot of stage productions, it seems.
Yes, a lot of stage productions. Probably as many stage productions, if not more, than his film and TV career combined. Yeah. And fun fact, I just learned this today. I didn't know this previously. Guillermo del Toro writes the Hobbit series alongside Peter Jackson.
Oh yeah,
they've been talking about that since it started.
Because he was originally supposed to direct.
There was a big thing where Peter Jackson did a big search to find a writer, and he ended up choosing himself. He's like, actually, after searching, I'll write this.
Well, no, they had Guillermo del Toro on dock to do it, but he didn't want to move his family to New Zealand for like the 3 or 4 years it would take.
Well, and Peter Jackson didn't want to do the movies again because he didn't want to do that giant ensemble where he couldn't focus on the dwarves.
He only wanted to produce. He did not want to direct.
He was afraid of having to make 13 dwarves each individual characters.
Right, which he doesn't have to do. Right. Because apparently he's not.
He's picked like 3 or 4.
Right.
Okay. Focus on.
Yeah. And he's given one of them a love interest with an elf character.
Which was created strictly for the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's because Tolkien didn't write women.
Yeah,
he wrote one woman, Galadriel. And then he had sort of Arwen. Arwen, arguably. She's there, and then she kills a really important character, and then she's gone again. Yeah. But like he had most of his women were.
Eowyn.
Yeah, you're thinking of Eowyn. There's Arwen and Eowyn.
Oh yeah.
Arwen
is the elf that.
Well, Arwen is in like 2 parts of the entire book series. She's in a flashback about him thinking of his love. And then she's in the end where they get married.
Yeah.
So technically Eowyn is in it more than Arwen is.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, on that note, I gotta run. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you probably in like, 2 weeks? Or is it a week when you come back?
I'll only see you. I don't probably won't make this, but...
Maybe not this, but we do have streams that we do midweek that you could join on.
Maybe I'll be around.
All right.
We'll see.
Have a safe trip.
Nice meeting you, dude.
All right, so, what'd you guys think of it?
It was really good. I liked it better than the first one.
I liked it a lot, but it is very different from the books at this point.
Yeah.
Like, very different.
I fell asleep, so I barely know.
Yeah.
Because it was bad.
It wasn't bad.
Please explain that.
I am very tired, and I don't sleep a lot lately, do a lot of things, and I fell asleep in a very dark room with comfortable seats. Sue me. Paid a lot of money to fall asleep.
Do you want me to go, I guess... I don't want to get too much into the differences between the books because a lot of it has to do with the ending, and if you haven't read the books...
Well, that's the thing, too, though. Like, he's making these movies, just, he's trying to stretch them out. He's adding stuff from the Silmarillion. Like, the whole Legolas thing is because of that.
Yeah, Legolas makes sense to me because Thranduil is the Elven king that's in the book.
Yeah.
And that is Legolas's father.
Right.
So it makes sense for Legolas to be there.
Yeah.
Like, that...
As his captain of his guard.
Yeah.
Right. His heir, who will probably never be in charge because
And then
Elves live forever.
and he sees the baby photo of Gimli.
That I liked a lot because I point
Great.
that out to everybody because I know that's Gloin, that's Gimli's father.
Yeah,
Because
you
I'm
actually-
such a Lord of the Rings nut.
Yeah, as soon as Gloin pops up, Andy's like nudging me. He goes, "That's Gimli's father." And then
Right.
like 2 minutes
Yeah,
later,
I was like, oh, well,
yeah,
I didn't
they're
need
like-
to say that at
yeah,
all.
They're stripping the dwarves of their like possessions, and he pulls out the picture, and then I could just like feel Andy smiling next to me, and it really is a great scene where he
Because it's Legolas
Yeah.
who reads it.
He goes, "Who is this?" He goes, "That's my wife." "Who's that ugly thing?" "Well, that's my boy Gimli."
Right. Legolas just like looks at him weird, and they become, great friends at the end of it. Or at the end of the series.
What are you looking at?
Okay, guys.
All right.
Our ex co-host, Jake Burke, just
Have a
entered
seat,
the room.
Jake. Yeah.
Greetings. There's a camera. Why is there?
You're on camera now. Congratulations. We're trying something new for this one.
Are you talking about the Hobbit?
We're talking about
yeah.
The
Yes,
Hobbit.
we are. Did you see it?
Yeah.
No.
You haven't seen it yet.
Well,
Okay.
gotta leave.
Alright.
There's actually, I feel like, and this brings up a good point, is why we're not going to have a spoiler section, because there's nothing to spoil.
Well, then I can stay.
There's no end
That's
to
true.
the movie.
Yeah.
This really is a middle chapter with no ending, and that's where a lot of the criticism of this movie comes.
Absolutely.
Is that it just meets all of these problems of being a midway point in a series where there's no end, and there's really just kind of, this is just kind of we're just going to walk for 2 hours to get
It's a
halfway
cliffhanger.
point,
And also, the weirdest part is a lot of the action scenes were manufactured for this film.
which is not a surprise.
The barrel scene towards the
yeah.
beginning was just like them sneaking in barrels and going down the waterfall. And that's all that happens in the books. But then they made it into
it's
this
a-
weird three-way, elf, orc, dwarf
It was
battle.
actually
the most,
it was
fantastic
cool.
scene in the
Yeah,
movie.
it was
a
cool.
super sweet scene, except for the one problem I have, which is so the camera angle was great for the majority of
God.
it. Yeah, so you were
I
twitching
was
in your seat next to
cringing.
me. It looks like all of a sudden they go from this amazing, they're using very high tech technology.
The red camera, yeah.
Right, which Andy points out is very ironic considering how Tolkien was 100% against technology.
Yeah.
That this is one of the most technologically advanced movies around.
Yeah, well, fuck Tolkien.
Right, well, you know my opinions on Tolkien being the worst writer in the world. The worst popular writer in the
Yeah,
world,
yeah.
I should
Good
say.
world builder.
Amazing
Awful
world
writer.
builder. He created languages.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. And the guy was a pretty decent human being.
This
And
story of
just
Lord of the Rings was more or less just him giving himself a reason to make up 2 or 3 languages. And
Yeah.
he said that. The only reason Lord of the Rings exists is because he wanted to make up 2 Elvish languages.
Well, and to voice his political opinions
Yeah.
on a public forum. Against industrialization and taking away the workforce, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, they go from using these amazing red cameras in 3D, shooting all of these scenes, and then all of a sudden it looks like they're strapping GoPros to the side of barrels
even
and
GoPros.
tumbling them through water.
It's sub HD.
Yeah, they were
just
like
like
home
2-second
video
shots,
cameras, like for
I
first
didn't
person
feel it was
views.
that awful.
No, it definitely takes you out of the moment.
Well,
If,
I guess
like-
it depends on if your eye's trained for that kind of thing. Because me and Chris are photographers, videographers.
like he said, it was cringeworthy.
by training, but we both kind
Well, you are
Yeah.
the very small part of the population, and they don't give a fuck about you.
But there's also no point to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't show you anything. There's no
it was really really superfluous.
it
the scene
doesn't-
was fantastic.
The scene was great overall.
Yeah,
I
but
have
then,
zero complaints.
But there's that editing decision that makes no sense. As he pointed out, it is about 2 seconds of the entire scene, but split up between 3 half-second shots even. And it's just why? Why is that there to put? There's no, because you don't see anything but water hitting the camera,
Yeah.
and that's it. It shows there's a shot, and it's not water all over the camera. You just see the waves, and all of a sudden water.
Just to show you that it's an intense, rapid ride.
Yeah, yeah.
It's an
Frickin'
intense
rapids.
sub high def Right.
Well, they're not going to strap a fucking red camera to a barrel, so
It made me feel like I was on a log flume at Disney World or something.
that's what they wanted you to feel like, Chris.
So not intense
Boy.
at all. Not intense at all.
Okay.
Because the log
Just
flume,
annoying because
yeah.
you're getting water on your glasses.
Right, yeah. I'm trying to see the orcs die.
Okay, Krabby Chris.
Maybe. That's a good name for me.
Krabby Chris. The whole end sequence, I guess, is the best way to say it. The big battle.
Yeah, I
towards
mean,
the
you can
end.
definitely spoil things in the
It's
movie,
not
so
even
just,
a
yeah.
battle. It's just sort of like a chase
Do you think
scene
I could
for
say
about
what
half
it
an
is?
hour.
I mean, do you
Where
think I
they
could
show
say?
up at
I wouldn't-
Erebor finally?
Yeah.
I wouldn't go into detail. I mean, you're
Yeah, I
going to
mean,
be
I'm
ruining
not going to
things for
say
people
how
if they haven't
it
seen it.
ruins, but
Just 'cause you read the book.
Don't talk about the
Yeah.
last 5 minutes, but yeah, like the...
But there's a big, I guess, extended chase slash infiltration slash kind of battle scene, but not really fighting, I guess.
There's no fighting whatsoever.
Right.
It's more like the dwarves and Bilbo are trying to outwit Smaug.
Right.
Like, Smaug spends his first 20 minutes just prancing around, talking about how great he is and how nobody would be able to defeat him, and he's not going to let them take even a piece of gold or whatever.
Right. And that's kind of how it goes in the books.
Right. And then they start ramping up we're going to, try to get him into a trap thing.
Right.
Yeah,
And
it's like a bunch of mice trying to catch a cat. It's
And
not
that
gonna
was
fucking happen.
Essentially.
that was all manufactured for the movie. Like, that was not in the book at all. Pretty much the whole second half of the movie, I guess.
Right.
Or, the last 40 minutes.
So
Just
all the Lake Town stuff was manufactured as well?
a lot of it. Pretty much, Lake Town in the book, they get there, they talk to the master agrees, and then sends them on their way. And then all of them go, instead of...
Yeah. I actually really like the Lake Town stuff.
I do, too. I mean, I'm liking this.
Bard
I
is
just-
a pretty decent character, though he's visually very disorienting, because as I pointed out a couple of times, he looks like Orlando Bloom without... Or he looks like
Just Legolas
he
with
looks like
facial hair.
Orlando Bloom with long hair from the Pirates of the Caribbean series.
Oh my god, yeah.
Almost
And no mustache. That's it.
almost exactly the same facial hair.
Orlando Bloom had a mustache
Oh.
in Pirates.
Yeah,
remember
he had
that.
he had a scruffy. He almost had the facial
Maybe
hair
it
that
is
James
the hair
has.
then. Yeah.
Yeah. But so they bring this Bard character who's just a brunette, facial haired Legolas.
He's
but a
also
human.
a very good archer. That's
Yes.
his character beat. He's called Bard the Bowman in the books.
Yeah, and he's actually descendant from a line of archers.
Right. So basically human Legolas.
Yeah. Oh, he's actually, and that's a good plot point. He is the direct descendant of the human who failed to stop Smaug from burning. What was the name of the?
It's not Erebor.
It's High something. It starts with an H, doesn't it?
No.
I forget now.
Yeah, just Lake Town.
We're just gonna call it Lake Town's brother town, High Town,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because it's
Next
set
to
up
the
on
mountain.
a hill. Yeah, the town under the mountain that got burned in the
Well, the
first
town under
Hobbit.
the mountain is Erebor, the Dwarven Kingdom.
Well, under the shadow of the mountain
Okay,
is what I
okay,
mean.
yeah.
More so, the
Yeah.
human town, not
Yeah.
the dwarven town. And he's descendant from the guy who had the only tools that could take down a dragon, and the legend is that he loosened a scale to present a weakness in Smaug, but he wasn't able to get the final kill in, which I'm guessing means he died at some point. They don't really
Yeah.
go into detail about
Well,
it.
I mean, the
The
act
town
like
was-
the whole
yeah.
town was razed. In the
Well,
ground,
they
so.
showed the town in this movie,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's just ruins.
That is also manufactured for the movie, that
What is?
legend.
But
of,
it's
the
Oh, is it?
Bowman.
but,
Yeah.
but it's fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's great. I'm not saying this is at all bad when I say manufactured for the movie, because I've been saying that a lot. This is just they have added a lot of stuff to kind of pad out the length.
Well,
And
they
But to be
book-
quite honest, though, if they would have made The Hobbit into a film that the book is, it's a very non-detailed book. You'd probably be fucking bored, be like,
Right.
how come they didn't, why they just run through that city? That's kind of fucked up.
Yeah,
You'd
they
be
didn't.
wanting more.
I agree.
Not necessarily 3 movies, but you would have wanted a lot more detail.
Yeah.
I had heard that the way that the trilogy was going to go was that the first 2 were going to be adaptation of The Hobbit, and that the third was going to be a link between The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Getting more into the stuff of there's a whole thing with Gandalf and Aragorn hunting Gollum for a year before they find him, and and that's when they discover that he told the ring wraiths where the ring is and all this stuff. And
Interesting.
yeah, and
I don't know. Well, the Hobbit, the next installation, the final one, that comes out December 17th, 2014, it's titled The Hobbit There and Back Again, which is the title of Bilbo's book. So I'm...
But going by where they ended in the book timeline, I only really see an hour and a half of movie left. There are 2 big events that need to happen, and
then they've got another hour to play with, because they're going to do that. Not
Yeah.
to mention the half hour they'll add on to the DVD.
but I gotta
Again,
tell you,
they're adding in a
Another
lot of stuff
barrel
in the
scene.
Similarian.
Log from
It's gonna be a fucking action-packed movie, though.
This is actually going to lead directly into the new Disney ride, The Hobbit There and Back Again, which is a water ride.
That Chris will be crabby at.
Yeah. I will sit on it with
This
my
is like a
arms
log
crossed.
flume.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, Jake's got it perfectly. I will be going, yeah.
Can I say that I actually have been impressed in this movie of how they've differentiated the dwarves and like given a lot of them individual characters. Like
They all have their own personality, even if they don't speak.
even if they're not there for very long. Like Gloin being Gimli's father, he acts kind of like Gimli, and like you can tell,
Curmudgeon-y, sort of crabby like me.
He's the one who like suggests that they bury the gold that they find in the troll cave in the first movie. He's like, it's a long-term deposit or whatever he says.
It's so great because they just grab the gold out of the cave and bury it in the cave.
Right. So that if
It's laughable.
who are some of the other ones?
There was
Beaufort,
the one with the axe in his head.
That's Biffer, which apparently was a remnant of Guillermo del Toro's drafts because Guillermo del Toro is a big fan of puns. So Biffer has a orc axe in his skull, basically bifurcating his head. And there's like another dwarf who's got what do you call it? Like a hearing.
Yeah.
It's like, one of those old cartoony horns. That's oin, because oin is apparently like a Spanish word meaning like to hear or like what did you say or something like that. I don't know all. Apparently, like all of the dwarves' names have some kind of pun that Guillermo del Toro came up with.
They're all very much caricatures.
Yeah.
Like there's the Russian one who wears the snow hat.
That's Beaufort. I like him.
He very much seems like a Russian dwarf for some reason.
The bomber, the big one. I think the Russian one is Dwalin, who's like the big guy.
Yeah, the big muscle one.
The big muscly guy with the tattoos on his head.
Yeah, the like UFC fighter.
Yeah, he's bald now, but in the flashback from the first movie, he had a mohawk.
I remember that.
He lost his mohawk.
Awesome mohawk in the first one.
Yeah, I noticed he looks significantly different. He's also like more muscular in this one, I feel. Like they've given him tighter fitting clothing to really accentuate the fact that he's a strong man.
I mean, I just rewatched the extended version. It seemed the same to me.
Yeah.
Was
like,
it?
It was just in the flashback that like when he was younger, he had the mohawk.
Oh yeah.
Balin, the white-haired one, who's like basically Bilbo's best friend out of all these guys.
Yeah.
He is the skeleton they find in Moria in Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people don't know that, but here lies Balin, son of Fundin, Lord of Moria. Like that's Balin.
Yeah, that's
Bilbo's
the cousin
buddy.
of
Gimli.
Yeah. Yeah, well he who is he historically? Was he like the the main advisor to the king that went mad right before Smaug attacked?
He was a member of that
Something
family.
like that.
I don't know what happened really prior to The Hobbit, but I know like after The Hobbit when
Well, after The Hobbit,
The Hobbit, like
after
Balin,
The Hobbit, he goes back to take Moria.
He basically leads an expedition to retake Moria,
which he
kicks the orcs out and holds it for like 3 years, and then suddenly nobody hears anything from them.
Right.
And at first, everyone's like, okay, like dwarves are really secretive. They don't talk a lot. They don't send messages out. Like this is pretty much normal. They've set up shop and now they're just doing their own thing.
Right,
and then
but
it's not until they go to Moria and Fellowship when they realize.
But that always is like a plot hole. Like Gimli shouldn't have been as excited to go to
he's
Moria.
like, oh
Yeah.
my cousin
well,
lives
because the
there.
last that they had heard was that they had overtaken Moria and that they were fine. And like it's normal for a dwarf not to send messages for years at a time.
But then that was also the point where Gandalf knows the actual truth and is still like, whatever, we're gonna go. I'm not gonna say anything about the fact that they're all dead, but I know they're all dead.
Well, I mean, I guess it's like after they took it over because they said that they dug too deep, and that's how.
He knew that there was a Balrog in Moria, but he didn't know that they had awoken it yet.
The thing was that Moria was a dwarven settlement in mind before they took it over.
Well, yeah.
It existed, got taken over, and then the dwarves came back.
But
and
the
kicked them
Balrog
out.
would have been there then, you would think.
Right.
Yeah, I think the Balrog kicked them out in the first place, actually.
Oh, okay.
Dwarves have a really stupid memory, from what I'm
They're just
understanding
stubborn.
about dwarves.
I mean, like, these 13 dwarves are trying to kill a dragon and take over their home. Like, they have no armies, it's just 13 of them. Like, they're stubborn. They want what's theirs.
Yeah, and they focused a lot on Thorin's possible descent into madness in this movie as
Which
well.
is an interesting thing they're doing. Again, like, different from the book, but not in a bad way. It seems to almost be connected to the Arkenstone. And I feel like the Arkenstone might end up having something to do with one of the Dwarven rings.
Is that what Smaug said? Smaug was the one that was talking about the Arkenstone being the source of madness.
There might be some spoilers ahead, folks.
Like
yeah.
You guys are starting to tread spoiler territory.
I don't know. They touch on it in the first Hobbit movie.
They didn't.
They touch on the Mad King and the Arkenstone and
Mm-hmm.
how like he was obsessed with it.
And he was like going to dive into the gold to find it after
Oh, yeah.
Smaug showed up. Like
Right.
he was obsessed with it.
Right, but like it's not until Smaug mentions it a second time that it starts to like clue in that it's a plot point.
That it
for
might be the
third
Arkenstone
movie.
and not the gold.
Right.
But the Arkenstone specifically.
Right. Because that's what who was somebody talking with Gandalf about this being a bad idea, this journey, because of Thorin and the Arkenstone? I can't remember. They mentioned it early on in the movie.
He's the one that like told Thorin to go back. What are you talking about?
Right, but somebody was talking to
I wanna
Thorin
say-
or talking to Gandalf about that being
In
a
the first
potential
movie or
bad
the second
idea.
movie?
The second one. I feel like somebody else was talking about it early on in the movie about it being a bad idea.
Oh well, no. His like the older dwarf. What's his name again?
Dwalin? Or Balin? The white-haired one?
Yeah, the white-haired one.
Yeah, Balin.
He's kind of like Thorne's like go-to advisor because he's
Right.
like the most elder of the group.
Yeah.
And
Well, he's also his.
Cousin. Something. They're all related.
Yeah, I'm sure
they're all
related.
cousins or brothers or something.
Yeah.
Like two of them are the
I know-
two clean-shaven ones or nearly clean-shaven ones.
Keely and
are-
Feely are brothers.
Yeah.
Bifur and Bofer are brothers, and Balin and Dwalin are brothers. I think Oin and Gloin are also brothers.
Yes, Oin and Gloin, I know. The names are great. Dwarven names
Well,
are awesome.
yeah.
but I mean, he has been telling Thorin the whole time that this is unnecessary. That
Right.
he
Maybe
has
that's
proven
what it
to their people that he was able to set up a new encampment in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and
Yeah.
that that's enough. And he's like, no, I want to take back my heritage.
Right. Well, he keeps talking originally about taking back the seat of Dwarven royalty.
Because
But
it was
then
the
it
most
becomes-
majestic,
right.
like Dwarven Kingdom.
And it's more of like a point of pride to be like, no no enemy should hold our throne.
And they're
Exactly.
afraid that the orcs or something
Right.
are going to take it anyways.
Right. But then they get there, and it's all of a sudden about the Arkenstone.
Yeah, it's like it seems that
Well-
Balin at least, and maybe some other people aren't sure if this is a case of Dwarven
Well,
stubbornness.
there's a reason for that though. Maybe you fell asleep during it when they were explaining this.
Very possible.
But this is a spoiler for the second movie. It was not said in the first reason. They were just saying that he was going to be going back to the mountain to retake the mountain.
Right.
And you're like, well, that's pretty fucking ridiculous with just these small amount of dwarves going up against a dragon.
Right.
And now in this movie, it's revealed that that is not actually the plot. It is actually them going back to find the Arkenstone to show to the other dwarven kingdoms, and then they will all rally behind him, and then they will take back the kingdom.
Oh,
That
okay.
is the only point of the mission.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's
They
what
are not taking back the mountain. They're getting the Arkenstone,
Right.
and then they'll take
Well,
the
that
mountain.
they did reveal that a little bit in the beginning because that's when Gandalf says, "Well, for that we need a burglar."
The beginning of the
Yes.
second movie, yeah.
Right.
There's like another prologue.
Well, they talk about that in the first movie, but it's not like
He never says, like...
It's not said why they need Bilbo, really.
Well, he doesn't say why the other dwarves won't help in the first movie.
Yeah.
Right.
He just says they won't help. Now, in this movie, they said they won't help because they don't have the Arkenstone.
Well, it's also that,
Right.
that stubbornness goes both ways. Like, these dwarves are trying really hard to retake their home, and all the other dwarves that have homes are just like, it's not our problem.
Right. It's more like the Arkenstone is important because it's like the king's crown.
Yeah, it's
essentially.
symbolic
Exactly.
to the dwarves in a way that
Right.
that Erebor by itself isn't.
Because it's the flashiest jewel, and the dwarves are
Yeah,
all
they were-
about jewels.
They were showing that, like, all the races were coming and, like, looking upon the jewel in the first movie. Like,
Yeah.
everybody was coming to visit this beautiful stone.
And not to mention, Erebor had a very close relation with the humans, which made everybody rich and everybody
Yeah.
happy.
The humans in Lake Town were economically dependent on.
Right, but that's also what got them so lazy because they were so like just focused on the gold and not paying attention to anything else. And the dragon just sort of walked in and
Yeah.
was like, "All right, screw you guys, you're all dead now," because
Yeah.
nobody was paying attention.
Could we talk, I guess, real quick before
Before you have to go.
Yeah, we should talk about Benedict Cumberbatch as the dragon.
Yeah, okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Heavily modified voice,
Yeah.
but the tone, obviously, all him. Very well done.
Yeah.
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 If you're familiar with the movie Legend, when Tim Curry was Satan in Legend, he did like a very similar voice, and it sounded so reminiscent of that, and it sounded like pure evil.
Yeah.
Like it was
Oh,
fantastic.
It's a good voice.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's
I noticed it's a little different than the trailer. The trailer's deeper and closer to Benedict Cumberbatch's
Is it?
real voice.
That could potentially be hearing it from a different sound system.
It could be. Yeah, it could be very well.
yeah.
Because I think I've only seen the trailer like on my
Also
iPhone
possible you
with
have
headphones.
Oh, on your iPhone?
with
Okay.
headphones.
Oh, with
really
headphones,
good
yeah.
headphones, but
That could be part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think he does a fantastic job. It's, his voice is very, like,
apparently
enrapturing.
he did a lot of motion capture for the dragon.
Yeah,
as well,
like,
they said.
it's gotta be just for the close-ups, though, because there's not a lot of facial expression in Smaug
I
unless
think
there's a
it might
close-up
be
shot.
just like the walking around.
That would be
They
hard
said they
to
were
do.
doing facial capture.
Oh,
Yeah,
though.
maybe they
most
were.
of the facial capture I've seen is just him close up in the camera.
Yeah, I mean, there was
Okay.
a couple scenes where he was looking directly
Yeah.
dead on at Bilbo right in front of the camera. So, I mean,
It's-
so you've seen that dead straight look.
It's
But-
really hard to tell because it's a freaking dragon
Yeah.
face and not a human face.
I like the way
But
they
yeah.
do the facial capture because like a big thing with Smaug, and one of the reasons I really love Middle Earth dragons is because they're so intelligent and they
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
speak, and it's actually not in the movie, but their voices are supposed to be kind of hypnotic, and you
Well,
can
that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
It really, you focus on that
well
voice.
they don't like that just happens, but they
Mm-hmm.
don't like mention it as a plot point where like when you're talking to a dragon you have to be careful because they can convince you to do stuff
That sounds like one of
yeah.
those things that, like we've talked about, like where they'll explain something that you should just almost be taking for granted.
I agree.
Like, I
Right.
hate that.
That's
in
like
movies.
that's a DC thing to do.
I could actually see
Kryptonite bullet.
Or no, like a bomb blows up a
Yeah.
car. Somebody blew up that car.
Right. Well, yeah, no, we like the kryptonite bullet
Wait,
thing. We were all watching, and Superman gets shot, and we're like, "Was that a kryptonite bullet?" And all of a sudden they go, "It's a kryptonite bullet."
Yeah.
Thanks,
I
thanks.
think
We couldn't figure that one
I think
out.
he even said it like just like snidely. He's like kryptonite bullet.
Yeah,
but yeah
it's just a bullet point.
Yeah.
On notes, basically, that they're giving you.
So I can agree that they probably didn't need to.
No, because they can demonstrate with his voice if they're doing it effectively, and it's not really something you think about until afterwards.
Now that I think about it-
yeah, you get hypnotized by his voice.
I think there was one specific spot where Bilbo does something. I don't want to spoil it, but well, okay.
Well, in the beginning, he is really dumb because he sticks around right by the dragon's face and answers
Right.
all of his questions
Yeah,
and sort
exactly.
of reveals stuff about himself.
Mm-hmm.
Not like all proper info, like he lies a little
he's
bit
doing
as well,
it
but
because he knows you can't lie to a dragon. Like
Right.
they'll know if you're lying. So he's like being truthful, but just not saying certain things.
Right.
Well, he's covered up
being
by the
vague.
ring,
Yeah.
and the dragon knows he's there.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't
Right,
even.
yeah.
He's like, okay, what are you doing here? He's like, I can't see you, but I know you're right there.
Right.
I actually
It's
think like
don't try and fuck with me.
now that you mention it, it seems almost like Smaug compelled him to take the ring off and like
Yeah.
reveal himself.
Oh, definitely,
Just,
he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
just Smaug talking to him and asking where he was.
Basically, like, if you don't, I'm gonna kill you.
Right. I'm just gonna breathe fire everywhere because it doesn't hurt me.
Yeah, Smaug is very.
I like.
He's not as hostile as I imagined he would be.
Well,
He's more into conversation. Oddly enough,
character-wise, that's very true to the
it's
books.
it's like that big dog thing where he doesn't have to bark,
Right.
Because he is
He could kill
big.
everything.
Yeah, he's tough and he knows it.
And it actually, that cat metaphor I kind of used earlier really does work because cats
Oh, the
are
mice
very.
taking down the cat.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I mean, like, because cats are very.
Place.
What do you call them? Like,
Cute.
they want solitude. Like they don't want to be
Yeah.
around other people. Like, same
Yeah.
with dragons. They do not, accompany each other. They stay away from each other.
Right.
They do not like.
Well,
to
how many
but-
dragons are there in that world anyway?
Not many.
Anymore.
There used to
there's
be
like-
a lot.
yeah,
and
there's
like
a
a
lot of
dozen,
them got killed in
right?
like a big giant war during the First Age, before even the Battle of Five Armies. So I
Mm-hmm.
think there are like
Yeah.
2, maybe 3 that are still around.
Right.
Well,
so,
Smaug
like,
is the greatest of all that's
well,
left.
4 of them ate rings, didn't they?
Yeah.
4 of them actually have rings of power.
Oh, that's true. Actually, maybe there are more. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they just don't live around there. They said they come from the north, so I mean,
The great,
Right.
the great serpents of the north.
Well,
or
that
whatever
is where the
Thranduil-
majority of the movie takes place, is the north.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Which is
it's on
also
the
why the
north
eagles are
end
there.
of the range, yeah.
Right, because
Right.
the eagles take place in the north as well. Anyway, we got any final thoughts on this?
well, I mean, the dragon was in the movie a lot more than what I thought he was really going to be.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
a
it almost-
good 20-25 minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, in the most beautiful dragon I think I've seen in cinema.
longer than that, I think, even maybe.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
it was-
I just wasn't anticipating that because
Yeah.
it had to cost so much to animate that dragon.
It was truly the desolation of Smaug, like, for a reason. Like, they called it that because he's the big part of it, I guess.
Yeah.
Right, well, I'll get in. Should I go into the quote from Joe Williams of
Oh,
the
that
St.
was
Louis
great.
Post-Dispatch?
Yeah.
So our local newspaper, the Post-Dispatch, Joe Williams, the film critic, had this quote about the movie. He was one of the people that didn't like it. And I do agree with this quote, though I don't agree with the majority of his opinions on the movie. But he says, We were promised desolation, but the Hobbit just keeps dragging on.
Dragon on.
Uh-huh. But, like, there really is no... Yes, it's Desolation of Smaug because it's Smaug, but there really is not much desolation. I almost feel like Desolation of Smaug is the third movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah, mhm.
I don't want to give away too much.
Right,
but
I mean, we won't talk about that, but it's... I don't know. The movie suffers just from it being the mid-child in the family, basically. Just kind of ignored because it's not the bright, new, young one, and, not the final piece in the chapter. It's just, I like it a lot better than the first. I do. But I think
so too.
I think that's a lot of it because they learned some lessons from some missteps with the first one. Like the frame rate, the 48-second frame rate is seamless in this.
Yes,
like you
it's
don't...
fantastic.
Yeah, it is a beautiful movie. Well, you don't like 48, so we're not
don't like
even...
it.
That's
I mean,
just an issue.
I
I
love
didn't
it, but-
hate it. It didn't ruin the movie for me at all by any stretch, but if I ever saw it again, I would want to see it at...
Right.
And I hope
Well,
Jeff's listening because I leave my TV on that. I leave it on the high frame rate. I love
I
watching
do
movies
too.
in it.
I do too. But that's
Especially
just,
for video games. I have it just constantly on for video games. as well.
mine's for video games and sports. And
Yes.
that's primarily why I keep it on, because it's easier that way. But it did take me a long time to get used to it. And even after getting used to it, then going to see The Hobbit, the first one, it really threw me off. It was so intense. And they fixed
first,
it in this one.
10-15 minutes of the first one, though, was pretty awful. Like
It took
they
that
had
long
some
to get used
choppiness.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was honestly just you getting used to that,
That's
Thanks,
what Jackson
guys.
had warned. He had
I've
said
seen it
that for
twice,
a while
though,
it
and-
would seem weird.
Right. But for this movie, it's seamless. There's no issue there. And I don't think that's just because we've gotten used to it.
No, I don't.
Do you need to leave?
I have to
real quick?
run. I want to say one thing before.
Okay,
I
go ahead.
And it's totally it's kind of off topic, but it's something that bugged me about this movie. So they keep calling Smaug Smaug in this
Right.
movie, which is like how you pronounce the AU letter combination in Sindarin, which is one of the Elvish languages. But Smaug is not an Elvish word,
Or
name.
nor are the hobbits or dwarves Elvish.
Right, like Smaug is supposed to. It's based on in real world. It's based on a Germanic word, which was the basis of Rohirric, which was the fictional language that Rohan speaks in Lord of the Rings is just Old English. Like it's not a fictional language; it's a real language. So by that extent, Smaug should be like a Rohan word and should just be pronounced Smaug. But they keep pronouncing it Smaug in the movie, and it bugs me.
Well, there you go.
Maybe he has some backstory with elves though.
But he doesn't.
Yeah. So there it is. The pronunciation laid to rest by Andy Conan.
Okay, so just
It ruined the movie for him.
No,
he
it
hates
didn't. It
He
didn't.
hates it.
didn't ruin the movie, but it just bugged me. I felt like, as well researched as those movies are into Tolkien's linguistics and backstory and all the stuff he came up with, I feel like that's a really silly thing for them to overlook. But again, just nitpicking. Didn't
well,
affect the
after
movie
you
really
leave
at all.
here, we're going to go into the difference between orcs and goblins, probably,
All
and
right.
how that was completely looked over in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Because
Gotten right finally.
goblins are not orcs and orcs are not goblins.
All right, well,
They definitely mix that up.
that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah.
But I'm
Anyway,
gonna peace out here.
Yes, we will see you later.
Bye.
Have fun at work.
Well, bye, Andy.
Yeah, wave to the camera. Look at that. Look at the camera. It's weird. Anyway, so we don't have really what? Euro Truck Simulator 2 Gold, you mean? Yeah, do it to the camera. There you go. You should play that game, people. It's fantastic. So it's just you and I now, James.
This is weird.
We don't really have much more to talk about on this, but I would say the makeup, we were talking about the improvements with the 48 frames is one thing, but the makeup is so much better done, even.
Yes.
And it seems weird, because I know they shot these movies all back to back, but it seems, where the first one, was it you that was pointing out that a lot of the orcs seemed CG in the first one? Or was that Andy that had pointed that out? I remember.
I don't know if I pointed that out to you before, but I mean, that's definitely, the white orc, he's, pretty full on CG. I don't even know if it's probably just a motion capture actor, because on the close-ups, it doesn't look like makeup.
Right. I think he might be CG, but with a lot of his, lieutenants, there's that one scene where they're being chased by the Warg Riders, those are almost all CG from the looks of it.
Yes, when they're on the wargs especially.
Right. And for the barrel scene, those are all CG as well. But then they have there's one of the orcs gets captured by the elves, and it's all makeup.
Yeah,
and it's beautiful. It's almost like it was hard to look at because they did such an extreme close-up. It's like his whole face isn't even showing. It's so extreme. And it was just gorgeous. You can't look, it's like a train wreck. You can't look away, but it's also gross as shit to look at because of how detailed it is.
And the hand-to-hand combat scenes are definitely makeup. Like them going up against the dwarves, like in Lake Town.
Yeah.
That was all makeup. Like you could see some of that. And I want to say like the White Orc's son, the one with the like armor sticking out of his chest.
I don't
want to
remember
say he
his
was
name.
makeup.
Yeah, I think he was definitely all makeup as well. What is his name? He's a general as well, but I can't remember.
He's so grotesque looking. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, but like the fucking the armor. He's got armor embedded in his skin, sticking out from his skin.
Yeah, so
that is so fucking cool. That character design.
How does he
is so
sleep?
awesome.
Because it's like on his back too.
I don't think orcs sleep, man. I don't really know much about the daily life cycle of an orc, but I want to say that sleeping is probably not one of those things. But yeah, it's just I hate to say it, but I think I might like this one better for technical reasons more so than anything. But then again, I did fall asleep at some really important plot points, which I feel really bad about, and it's kind of shitty, but it's not, I couldn't avoid it. But still, like, it's a gorgeous movie.
Oh yeah.
The shape-shifting bear thing is really neat too.
Yes, the bear is really good.
Even though that's only in it for like 5-10 minutes. Like that whole like chase there into the house. The design of the house, I wanted to point out, was really great. Because the shapeshifter is, it's almost like he's two different people. Because each form has its own mind. So he's kind of like a werewolf in that sense. Like when he becomes the animal form, that animal form is sentient.
Skin changer, I think is what
Skin changer is what they call him. But so one thing I noticed is when they get to the house, his house, it's locked on the outside so that he can't get so that he can't get in. And then there's also
his house,
there's also a lock on the inside. It's just like I like the fact that there's locks on two different sides of the house so that he knows to like before he changes that he's going to want to lock his house up a bit from his other self.
Yeah, and he is like giant sized. I shouldn't say giant, but like he's kind of like what Hagrid would have been like in the Harry Potter series,
right.
Just like a larger than life human.
Is he actually like? Was he taller than Gandalf? I don't remember.
Yes, he was taller than Gandalf, and he was like towering over the dwarves.
Well, yeah, I mean they are
like,
dwarves, but yeah.
That was kind of disorienting in the first one. Like when they were in Bilbo's house, they made Gandalf like freaking super huge over the dwarves, and then like when they're out in the country, he's barely taller.
That's for comical effect, so that he can hit his head on things. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, so there's some like perception issues of proportion there. But the skin changer, did they ever explain what he is exactly?
Yes, that is one of the parts when you fall asleep.
Yeah, because I fell asleep as soon as he showed up in his human form. I was like, and I'm gone.
P is the last of his kind. They were hunted down because people are afraid of them.
Right.
And
the orcs stopped chasing the dwarves because they reached skin changer territory. Well, and the one like was it his son that's like, shouldn't we go forward? And he's like, fuck no.
Yeah, and the funny thing is he was explaining that like the orcs are like the reason for like their demise because like they were apparently kind of like a slave race to the orcs.
Well, right, that's why because he hates dwarves.
Yes,
but he hates orcs more because of that. Okay, that explains it. Because I remember hearing Gandalf says that he hates dwarves before I fell asleep, before he became his human form or his humanoid form.
Gotcha.
So that explains it then. So all right. How would that skin changer race manage to become slaves to orcs? Orcs are rather powerful, but that's because of numbers mostly.
Well, I mean, they might not have been as badass as this guy, not had huge bears to transform into. That might be why he's the last one.
Right. That also brings up a good point. Some of them could have changed into fish every once in a while.
Or something,
But yeah, I mean, that was a decent character. I almost thought it was going to be Tom Bombadil when they show up at the house. Like, the house almost looks like Tom Bombadil's house.
It almost kind of felt like that,
to
be quite honest.
And then, like, they get inside, and it's very much not Tom Bombadil's house. But I'm glad that Tom Bombadil is still not showing up in the series. But I do feel bad about him not getting attention.
In the extended cut.
Right, because he's God. Tom Bombadil is God. He basically, like, if there is a God, Tom Bombadil is older than God. Like, that's the character. The character predates existence. And so he's rather an important character if you think about it, but he gets no attention whatsoever.
Peter Jackson probably just didn't want to start treading that deep of water.
Because Tom Bombadil is also crazy as shit.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, he predates existence. He's been around for a long time. He A, doesn't care about anything, and B, doesn't care about anything. Like he comes into contact with the ring at one point. You never read the books, did you?
No, I never read the books, but
Okay.
I know all about Tom Bombadil.
I'm sure your
Everybody's
wife has
filming
mentioned it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like he comes into contact with the ring, the one ring, and puts it in his hand and then disappears it and then gives it back and then it reappears and he gives it back to Bilbo and he's like, or Frodo and he's like, yeah, all right, that was fun, whatever. And I think like Frodo offers it to him. He's like, no. Just
There's a trinket to me.
yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, it's just a toy. It has no effect on him because Tom Bombadil's a badass, and he's got a wife too, who I don't remember her name, and I don't actually remember her demeanor, but it's mostly just important about Tom Bombadil. I think like one time he comes out of the ground. I can't remember if that's the real thing that I remembered or not. He just like that's a weird part of Lord of the Rings where the hobbits first start out on their journey. They almost die and are saved by Tom Bombadil. Like he meets them and then they continue on and then they almost die and then he like saves them, I think is how it goes. And then yeah, it's interesting. He's an important character, but he can be cut out because he just would break the entire feel of the movie. Which that's one thing I can say for Jackson is that he's not broken the tone of these movies yet. Even with adding these weird extended fight scenes, they all seem to matter. Oh, and Andy never did get to talk about the extended cut of the first one.
Oh yeah,
if we want to talk
reaction about the goblin song.
Right. So that actually does break the tone of the first movie, I feel like. So
it's pretty awful.
Right, so for people who have not gotten it yet, the extended edition of the first Hobbit film has just come out, and they only add like 15 minutes of content.
Yeah, it was somewhere around 15
which is
minutes.
not that much, considering there was like half an hour added to each Lord of the Rings movie.
Yeah, it was like a half hour, 45 minutes on some of them.
Yeah, and one of the scenes added is like a 3-minute long orc song.
I don't know if it was 3 minutes. It was like about 2 minutes.
It's a goblin song sung by an orc, because the Goblin King is actually not a goblin; he's an orc. Just like
he's something else.
Right, he's like a deformed, fat, obese orc thing.
Yeah.
It's really hard to explain.
And so, what in the scene where the dwarves are being brought to the king, he's singing to them as they're being presented to him, and it's pretty awful because I mean, like obviously they're goblins.
Right. But he's also dancing. He's not just singing. He's like off of his throne, spinning in circles.
Yeah, and I related it to like the Vogon reading his awful poem in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Coincidentally, also starring Martin Freeman.
Yes. And it was equally as awful, and they actually the dwarves say how awful it was. So, I mean, it's not like they put it in the movie and hoped that, it was going to be the next big hit.
Right. Well, that's actually a song from the book, though.
Yes.
It's just like... Again, he takes things out of these movies because they break the immersion and the feel, and he puts this one into the extended edition. Like, I know The Hobbit was a book written more for children. It's more lighthearted, sort of. Less death.
Yeah, I'm definitely not showing Annie The Lord of the Rings yet, but
I've noticed,
The Hobbit I've been taking her to go see.
You've been taking she's 8 now.
Yeah,
right?
and actually I was kind of like freaked out. They had a lot of beheadings in this movie, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah, there were. I forgot about that part.
At least it's orcs.
Yeah, there was... The first fight scene where the orcs show up at the elven encampment and start slaughtering elves, and that was actually like, whoa, that doesn't typically happen.
Yeah, they at least don't show close-ups of that, but like there's a lot of beheading of orcs, and like it's shown.
Right, and then I don't remember the name of the elf, or not elf, the dwarf, but the one dwarf gets poisoned by the orcs and spends the majority of the movie slowly like falling into a sickness. Not quite as visually disturbing as Frodo's. The Morgul blade that hit Frodo, but sort of the same thing happens. Also saved by elven magic at one point. Yeah, what did you think about what was her name even?
Evangeline Lilly.
Yeah, what did you think about her addition to it? The completely made up character.
Yeah, completely made up character for the part. She was fantastic, and she's gorgeous as an elf.
Yeah, I actually think she's more attractive as an elf than as a human.
Yeah, she has like that just kind of unique face, and she's kind of dainty, and yeah, she worked perfect as an elf. Yeah, and they added her in for like a weird. It almost seems like they gave her a role to explain Legolas's hate of dwarves. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, because Legolas has a crush on her, and she's got a crush on one of the dwarves.
Yes, but Legolas's father even makes a comment saying that like
Right.
she's a lowly servant elf, basically. You know,
Right.
like,
It's pretty clear that she
Stay
also
away from
has
Legolas.
feelings for Legolas, but his father approaches her and says it's never going to happen. Don't lead him on.
Yeah.
Which almost kind of like breaks the mood of the movie, but it's somehow done so well that I didn't care.
It's totally believable that she
Right.
goes for the dwarf, which is I don't know why. It just felt.
Well, it's because
kinda
he's like the most clean shaven of the dwarves.
Oh yeah, he's
she
most
points,
human looking.
she points out he seems a little tall for a dwarf, doesn't he?
Yes.
And
she's definitely a short elf.
right. And they have a connecting moment where they talk outside of his jail cell in the Elven Kingdom, and it's actually a very good moment where they talk about his mother, and then she talks about, can't remember what she talks about. She talked about the stars or something.
Yes.
I can't remember. It's good. That romance obviously is forced into the movie, but it doesn't feel too
See, that's the thing.
like
It's,
thrust upon you.
like is when they like their eyes first meet. You know, like the whole true love kind of thing in movies. Like it actually, they didn't even have to explain that she liked him. Like you could tell, just like the actors had that kind of chemistry together with each
yeah,
other.
they're not
Like,
shoving
you're
it
like, oh.
down. They don't shove it down your throat as much as like most movies would. So yeah, I mean it's pretty decent. Like, he did that in the Lord of the Rings movies though too, like with Arwen and the Strider's relationship is actually mostly manufactured. Because while it exists in the Lord of the Rings book, it only is really this flashback where he mentions Arwen, and then in the future where it's like, oh, Arwen didn't leave with the other elves, she's here to marry you now.
Yeah.
Congratulations, you have a romance after this book.
Yeah, just because Tolkien isn't big into the romances, so yeah, they knew.
Clearly, I actually think he may have just not understood how to write women, and that's why he kept them out of it. And I actually would applaud him for that, like not writing.
Yeah, trying to do something
Right.
they can't. Yeah.
Kind of like how I think that George Martin shouldn't write women. And I hate seeing in interviews where they're like, you write women so well. And I'm like, no, the TV show women are written well. The women in Martin's books are written as little schoolgirls who have an obsession with penises and boobs.
What about Daenerys? Is she written well in the books? Because I mean, she's my favorite character in the show.
No,
Really?
she's done terribly in the books.
Really?
Because, so after her, and actually the whole incident, I know we're way off topic now, but fuck it, let's just keep it on here. So after her forced marriage to Drogo, she actually gets raped. Like it's a kind of like a rape, and it's a lot more intense in the book, but at least if I remember right, it has been like 2 years now since I read Game of Thrones. But I want to say it was.
Well, she's taken in the show, and she's
but
crying during it. I mean, that's
make it
technically rape. She's doing it, though, for her family.
Right, they make it seem a lot less rapey in the TV show to make it more accepting, though, because she's a 13-year-old girl in the books.
Mm-hmm.
And in the movie, she's very clearly, like, of age.
Yeah, like 18, 16 years.
Right. And so it seems way more rapey in the book when everybody's like, this guy's like 30 and she's like 13. But they do build a relationship, and then it's fine. And he is in the books longer than he is in the TV show because, obviously, it's a book. It lasts a bit longer. Yeah. You fill it with fluff and shit. And then he does the whole dying thing, and it's her fault. And then she goes across the desert and leads her people through some hard times. And then when she gets to, is it Astapor? Is that the first city she goes to?
I don't think that's the first one.
I don't remember. It's been so long since I've read the books that a lot of information has gone from me. Anyway, point is, like, there's a lot of things that happen in the TV show that are weird and didn't happen in the book, but they're fine. But then after this, like, after she gets out of that first city, and then she goes and she takes the Unsullied, then she just travels around the desert following men, like boyfriends, for her remainder of her time in the book up to this point. Like, she just hops from man to man and is like, oh, he's so handsome, I love him so much, I'm just gonna do whatever he says. Yeah, Dany's a terrible character in the books at that point, and it's really sad because she's potentially a great character.
Oh yeah.
And this is why it's laughably cringing, I guess you could say, to see people call Martin the great feminist writer because he doesn't write women well. And then there's like Sansa, who is not a great feminist character.
I can't say any of those women are good role models.
Sansa is almost like propaganda for wife beaters.
Yep.
Like, it's wife beating propaganda. That's just terrible. And then Marjorie Tyrell is propaganda for any culture that believes that women are currency. And then I would say the only decent women characters he writes are, what's the little girl?
Well, that's true. Fuck yeah, I can't remember.
I'm drawing a complete blank on Sansa's little sister at this moment.
Yeah,
She's like the number one name for little girls being born these days.
really?
People are naming their daughter whatever the fuck the girl's name is that I can't think of right now. I do have plenty of internets in front of me. I
Yes.
guess I could look it up, but I'm not going to because it's not all that important.
Yeah, we need to get back to.
But
finish
it's
up
funny because people have been posing because people are naming their daughters after this girl because of what they've seen on the TV show, and they have no idea what she does in the books, which are really terrible things. Like she's a well-written character, but she also becomes kind of a murderous little terror because that's like you would see it building up in the TV show already that she's starting to like she idolizes
Her world's falling apart.
right, and she idolizes the assassins. So she's lost her entire family, and the only thing she relates to is this guild of assassins that she wants to now join.
Yeah.
And so it's funny that people who have read the book have posed the question, what are people who are naming their daughters this going to think when they think or find out what the girl actually is? Okay, actually, I'll say he does write a really great feminist character, and that is oh god, is it? I don't actually know her name in the book now because they changed it in the TV show. The Theon's sister.
Oh, Theon Greyjoy's sister.
Yes.
Yes, I can't think of it as well.
But like her name in the book is like, is it Yar? Nah, fuck. I can't remember because her name is very close to the servant for the Starks, the wildling servant that they take.
Mm-hmm.
And since like even though she's less important of a character, the name is one letter off. So to not confuse people, they gave it to the barbarian woman who barely talks, and then took her name away and gave her a different one. She's actually pretty hardcore feminist character because she
she's pretty
actually
tough.
she vies for the throne at one point and tries to become king, not of Westeros, but of the Iron Islands, which is unheard of. And when everybody tries to talk her down and be like, why would you try to become in charge and you're a woman? She's like, fuck you, I don't care. So that character as well. But still, calling him a feminist is not.
Yeah.
It's
He's definitely not a
ridiculous.
good feminist.
Right. The majority of his women chapters involve a lot of gratuitous sex, as if it's written by a 13-year-old boy who has never had sex. Which makes me wonder how much sex George Martin has actually had in his life.
That's
Probably
kind of
not
a gross
any.
image.
It is. I'm sorry, it is. But imagine sex with George Martin.
No.
If you've not read the books, imagining sex with
No.
George Martin
No.
will help you understand how sex is written in the books. All right. Well, that was almost like a 20-minute rant about the Game of Thrones TV show and Song of Ice and Fire book series.
All right, well, let's wrap up Hobbit then.
Yeah. Okay. So you liked it.
Yes.
I liked it.
Dragon was fantastic
Yeah.
looking. Oh, quick detail I loved about the movie that they threw in, and it was even kind of like a little suspenseful moment, the coin dropping from the ceiling. All the coins stuck in his scales, because obviously he's been laying inside this pile of gold coins.
There's a point where he's like running and coins are just like falling off of him.
Yes, the coins are just falling out of his scales.
Which
like,
is a
what
really
attention to detail.
I was just gonna say it's perfect detail.
Yeah.
They show the scale that apparently has been loosened according to the legend is really well detailed. Like his hide, you could see when he's getting ready to like flare up a blast of flames. Like
that spot glows brighter.
Right, you could see like whatever reservoir the flames exist in start to glow through his scales, and it's
his napalm pouch.
Yeah, he's really, really well designed. The way he walks around on the coins actually seems like the way a giant he's two-legged with claws creature would like move around on a mound of coins that keeps shifting.
Yeah.
It's really well done. He's clearly not walking on a flat surface, and that's really well illustrated. Yeah, the movie, I would say, is almost flawless, except for the fact that the series probably shouldn't have been 3 movies long. And that's the only reason to me that it has a misstep and is not as great as it could be. But then again, if it was 2 movies instead of 3, we'd be missing something.
Exactly.
It's a no-win situation for that sort of thing. Like a second middle movie had to exist that you wish didn't have to exist, but still has to exist.
At least not be 3 hours long.
Yeah.
But the fact that he's putting in some of the similarity and stuff's kind of cool.
Right. I do
like the Legolas stuff. Like, I don't think the movie would have been as cool if it wasn't for the Legolas.
Speaking of the almost 3 hours, I think the pacing was fine.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it definitely didn't feel
well-paced.
it. The first one, it felt it. It definitely felt it. It felt like it felt like Return of the King again, like where they're just fucking walking the entire
I
fucking
would say
movie.
the only part that drug for me was the Goblin City in the first one.
Yes, yeah.
Because that's like... And that's why I'm so surprised that they added a song to the Goblin City to extend the Goblin City, because that was a ridiculous, pointless scene.
Yeah.
Where it really, like, it was a 5-minute long chase scene of the same thing happening over and over again. And in fact, part of that chase scene was reenacted in this movie. Because doesn't the fat guy fall into a barrel in the first one as well?
Does he fall in a barrel?
Like, in the Goblin Town, I think or at least he rolls. I think at some point the fat guy rolls.
What? Yes, I think you're right.
And in the second one, he has another episode of rolling around.
Yeah, if he's not in a barrel, he like got stuck in something when they rolled him around to knock all the goblins off the bridge.
Yeah.
It's alright.
Yeah, that's his point of the film, is to be the human bowling
He's a big
ball.
roly-poly dwarf.
He actually is a badass in this movie. He has a moment of badassness that I won't spoil. That is just, I fucking loved it. That was a cool little shot.
I know you had issues with the cameras and the barrel scene.
Like,
it was such a fantastic scene.
It was a fantastic scene, but like that, they changed cameras, man. Like, okay, if Jeff was here, Jeff would explain to you how 3D cameras work and how you need two of the same cameras side by side. This was not a 3D camera. Like, this is not a 3D rig.
But it was only
this
for
not
like
even
a brief
the same cameras.
seconds. They were
There's
just
no
like
way that
tossing it in
anybody
there.
would take a red and strap it to the side of a barrel and then tumble it through rapids, which is what they did. It was like a GoPro. Whereas
exactly.
Andy said, it almost seemed lower quality than a GoPro strapped onto the side of these barrels.
It's on a huge screen. It was still very detailed.
Yeah, but it happens for such a short amount of time that I wonder what the resolution actually was.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. Like, they were only using it just to give you that perspective of like, oh shit, we're in some rapids, you know? They had to do that. They're not going to fucking throw a huge rig in the water.
I know. I just feel like it was already well illustrated, and it didn't. It only took me out of the movie when that happened. And this from the perspective of somebody who was falling asleep. At least it woke me up to be annoyed for a second. But that was it. Like, it doesn't take away from the movie at all. It was just, it's me thinking, who the fuck thought that was okay to edit in right there? That's a decision on one person that I'm sure they will not make again for the third movie. That just happens. You know, movies make missteps like that. Like the Goblin Town in the first Hobbit. That was a bit of a misstep.
Yeah, there was too much time was spent there.
And the Goblin King was gross, though.
They did make him look very grotesque.
Yeah.
I will definitely give them that.
That's a thing, and I think that has a lot to do with Guillermo del Toro, who does monsters very well. But the monster design in the Hobbit series is much better than it was in the Lord of the Rings
and
series.
I almost wonder if it was him that did the separation of goblins and orcs. Like,
That's-
hey,
I
you
was just-
fuckers, you fucked this up in the first
I was going to bring
series.
that up next. Like, okay, at some point, you got to think, somebody walked onto the Lord of the Rings set who maybe wasn't involved in the day-to-day processes and said, why are the actors calling those goblins? Or why are the actors calling those orcs or whatever? Those are goblins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Because I remember watching as a kid, even never having really been that, like, I'd read the books, but I'd never, like, seen what a goblin or an orc actually had looked like as an artist rendering before. But I do remember being like, they keep talking about orcs, but where are the orcs at?
Yeah.
Because there's no orcs in this movie.
In Fellowship and Two Towers, there was no differentiation of them at all. And then in Return of the King, when Frodo gets taken up to the tower, like above the spiders lair,
yeah.
that was the very first time they'd ever kind of separated out the orcs and goblins. And I don't even say that they say orcs at all. They just had like shorter actors, and they had the Orcai, because it was the Orcai and goblins.
Right.
And I want to say the Orcai say something about these filthy goblins or something like that. And I was like, oh, they finally got it right. It only took to the third fucking movie.
Right.
But I think that might even be like an extended scene. I'm not even sure. I've seen the extended edition so much.
I think that may have been an extended scene I mean, the scene was existent, but that dialogue may have been extended.
Yeah.
But yeah, like because they talk extensively about orcs in the first two movies, but they never show an orc because the ones that they are showing are goblins. And it's just like somebody who's like, whoops.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and there was a scene, I think even in Return of the King, where Merry and Pippin are like buried like underneath the pile of I guess it was the Orcai and the goblins fighting again, and they were like burnt in a big pile.
Yeah.
But obviously they escaped. I want to say that the Orcai said something like these, or the Fellowship said when they came across it, it was a big pile of orcs. It's like, no, those were fucking goblins in that pile. Right. It was Orcai and goblins. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, the Orcai looked more like orcs than anything else, but they technically aren't. They are technically like...
they're like a magically bred
what do they call it? They're like...
orcs and
they're
humans
corrupted.
Kind of something.
They're corrupted, like, men, essentially.
But that's what orcs are supposed to be like. They're supposed to be more humanoid.
Right, yeah. Just like really gross, which now there actually are orcs in the Hobbit series. And again, like it's the Hobbit series has some terrifying looking makeup and creatures created for it, which I do find it funny that this is the kid one. But oh well, I mean, what are you gonna do? Guillermo del Toro likes scaring children. That's his thing.
That is true.
I hope your daughter enjoys it as well. I don't know, is she, like, finding it terrifying from a kid's perspective?
She loved this one. She was only scared at a few scenes because of the 3D. She, like, jumped, like, when the bee flew out at the camera.
Oh, that's right. There's giant bees.
Yeah, and, like, I'm, like, seriously, I looked over there. I'm like, well, what are you doing? It's a bee. In a movie.
Well, now I know how to scare your daughter. Bees. She's just like Nicolas Cage. She hates the bees.
She used to be like so like tomboyish and like, you know, touching earthworms and playing them in the dirt and playing with bugs, holding them in her hand, you know. And now she's getting more girly. It's kind of sad and disappointing.
Yeah, what a weirdo. Anyway, that's it for our extended podcast. It's way longer than I thought it was going to be.
Yes.
I had one topic and it's now an hour and a half in.
Yeah, like I guess what next week maybe talk about like the Steam box reveal. It's so
I don't know if we're gonna touch on the Steam box until maybe some reports come out about it from the people because it just got released to people yesterday, right?
Yeah, and then they showed pictures of it in the controller.
Right. The newest information I got out of it was one of the 300 was trying to find all the other 300, and then they put a picture of all the Spartans next to it for the movie 300, and like that was the news this morning is that they're trying to like find each other and collaborate, I guess.
Gotcha.
So maybe next week, maybe we'll give it another week to
see if any news hits.
Right. I mean, soon we've got, was American Hustle released this weekend, but not here in St. Louis, so we weren't able to review it.
47 Ronin.
47 Ronin looks amazing.
I'm so excited about that movie.
I was not originally because for me, it was like, so I'm a history buff above everything else, including video games. Like this it's just history buff is where I started on my nerd spectrum. So 47 Ronin is a really interesting story about 47 Ronin who lose their master and then vow, there's 47 samurai who lose their master, become a Ronin, and then vow to kill the guy who killed their master. And all they do is go into like the employ of him and they wait a significant period of time and then they kill him and then they all kill themselves. But like, they kill him, they wait to be captured, and then they're like told to execute themselves through their ritual suicide. So they do it at the end of the story. But it's a really cool story of loyalty, and like that's a huge thing from Japanese samurai culture. So when I was like Keanu Reeves, kind of fantasy,
he's huge into Japanese culture,
right?
That's why he took the Matrix,
and he almost looks like he could be Asian mix. And I think that's part of the plot is that he is partially Asian, or he was kidnapped by Japanese, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really convoluted plot, but it looks so good, and apparently it is so good. And another thing that I liked, even though he doesn't speak Japanese, he did every single scene in both English and Japanese. He shot everything twice.
That's awesome.
So like, and it's not going to be dubbed by another actor when it gets released in Japan. He is going to be doing the lines himself, and that alone is super cool. Even though I'll never watch it, I have a lot of respect for the filmmakers and Keanu Reeves for both doing that.
Yeah, and he recently produced like a Japanese martial arts film that he also acted in.
Right,
I haven't
and
seen
he,
it,
I think, is slated to be in Akira if that ever gets made as the title character, which a lot of people are upset about. But if he does a great job in 47 Ronin, maybe people will be a little bit easier about Akira being remade with him in it.
Like early reviews have been coming back from 47 Ronin saying that it's really good.
And it just looks, I have no idea how they're going to fit all of the stuff that I've seen in the trailer into that movie, because it can't be that long of a movie. It doesn't seem like it's going to be more than 2 hours.
Yeah.
But there's just, those trailers are so action and story packed.
Beautiful looking.
Right. But there are even parts of the trailer that I noticed that are straight out of history, the telling of the Ronin. Like, there's one where they're like climbing up a cliff to this, temple. or this like castle looking structure. And that's almost straight out of the telling of the tale. And I really hope, I know I may have just spoiled it for everybody by saying the historical tale, but I really hope it ends with them all just killing themselves. Because that would be so, if you have a movie about samurai who are all about honor and the Bushido Code, nothing, like, the Bushido Code dictates that they commit ritual suicide after this. And in fact, like, the 47 Ronin going out and doing this whole mission to kill this guy is actually kind of against their culture in the first place. Like, they would just take the dishonor and be Ronin, but instead they continue their service, which was really, like, unheard of. Mm-hmm. They did a continuous service to a dead guy. So I really hope they still stick to that code of Bushido for the movie.
Have you seen 13 Assassins?
I have. I've seen it a couple times. It's a really good movie. That's another, and that's highly steeped in, I think, is that Japanese as well?
Yeah. Yeah, those they're okay. Ronins too.
Well, it's highly steeped in Shinto legend, where one of the 13 assassins, the one they find in the woods in the cage, they don't really say this, but you kind of get the hint at the end. He's actually a demon.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But like in Shinto culture, there are good and bad demons.
Yeah,
I don't think he's necessarily good, but he's not necessarily bad either.
Yeah.
But they tell this story about how he's, basically anybody who likes Asian action films, go see 13 Assassins, because it's a great movie. So I hope this doesn't spoil it for you, though. But they find this guy in the woods, and he talks about how his boss locked him up, and he's human looking, and you're just thinking, oh, like he fell in love with the boss's daughter, had an affair, the guy got mad, locked him in a cage. Well, no, his boss is God. Like, well, not God, but like Shinto doesn't have that sort of belief. But like the forest is his boss or something like that. And they actually show a flashback of this woman, just like a normal human woman. But if you pay attention, she's eating a baby.
Interesting. And
that's just like the legend of these demons. Like, this woman was just eating a baby, but like it's such a quick flashback that you don't realize at that point until the end when more is revealed about the character that he may not be human. Mm-hmm. But it is his love that he's dreaming of is eating a small child. It is super cool movie, but they don't make a big deal of that, but they still leave that in there. And it's
a very gory movie, and Barb couldn't stomach it. Like, I loved that movie. That's probably one of the best, like, samurai kind of tales
That's also it's a historical tale about them trying to take out this warlord who's kind of crazy, but also untouchable. I don't know if, like, how accurate the tale is about the things that he did, but in the movie, like, they interview one of his victims who's had, like, all of her limbs severed or something, and it's not even a scene where they're showing her being mutilated. They show her post-mutilation when all of her, like, scars have healed and everything, but it's still, like, it's hard to look at.
Oh, it's
with how well it's
looking.
done. Yeah. And then there's a scene where he's using an entire family as target practice in the backyard of his house. He's just kind of like having a casual conversation and laughing as he's murdering children and their mothers.
It's an intense movie.
Yeah.
Very intense. Great
That's
action.
on Netflix, by the way. Netflix Instant.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if it still is.
I think it still is.
It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah.
But
anyway, yeah. So now we're just rambling.
Yeah,
I guess we can just end this one. Yeah.
Don't edit this.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to.
People may
We're just going to leave this. They might just, because more people want to hear us talk about movies anyway.
And one quick little thing, if you haven't ever downloaded Spotify, you should now, because I have now done it myself. On your phone, you can now listen to Spotify playlists on shuffle for free.
And that was what was keeping you from doing it
buying
before.
It,
yeah. Well, not buying it, from just downloading it.
Well, paying the service, but you have to pay. If you wanted to listen to it on your phone before,
you had to pay.
You had to pay the monthly service.
Which was how much? I don't even know.
It was like $8.99 or something, like
so
Netflix or Hulu Plus. Netflix, right? You know, like, it's like I would not be using it anywhere near as much as that. That's, you know, if it was like $1.99, maybe I would have done it.
I use it on my computer when I edit. Of course, there's those ads in there that bother me because I do it for free.
But see, that's the thing. On the computer, it's always been free.
Right.
And now on tablets as well, you can do everything you can do on the computer.
So you can tablets are based. Okay.
You can pick the songs even and play individual songs.
What he's referring to, though, is that on your phone, you were never able to even use it for free.
Yeah,
not even to listen to, like, the radio that they... Well, no, you could listen to the radio.
Preset radio systems. You cannot do anything on your playlists.
Right, but now you're allowed to shuffle your playlist. You can't choose the songs. You can
but you can make a 2-song playlist if you wanted to.
Right, or a playlist all of one artist.
Yeah, you can listen to an album. Like, if you want to hear the new... I don't even know what came out recently.
Kanye West something.
Yeah, the new Kanye West CD. If you want to listen to the whole album, you can just put it on shuffle and you get to hear it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big thing. Also, I think with that announcement, they just ended up giving me like 30 days for free of the premium anyway, which is
Yeah, but
decent.
you have to cancel. It's a pain in the ass to cancel any of that
Well,
crap.
I don't have to cancel because I never gave them my credit card in the first place. So,
Oh, okay.
So what are they going to charge me with?
Well, they'll probably just, I don't know.
They'll just. I've gotten the premium before. It just goes away.
Gotcha.
Like when I first got this service, they gave me premium, and now with this announcement, they just gave me premium again out of nowhere. In fact, they send me emails every once in a while, being like, "Try premium again," and I'm just like, ignore them because I don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah.
My free app of the week.
Yeah. See, he promotes things and hopes to get money, and I just promote things like Euro Truck Simulator 2 Gold because I love them. Because I have love, James. Don't you know love?
We still have not seen any kind of people give us anything because we're promoting them.
Yeah, I mean, nobody.
Damn them.
We don't care here. If anybody wants to give us free stuff, that'd be great. No, we've gotten free stuff before.
Oh,
I've
no,
got a
well,
whole
we've
pile
definitely-
of stuff from Rockstar in the corner
Well,
over
we
there.
definitely no. I mean, because because we openly, blatantly
Right.
like EA. I
Right.
constantly say how much I love EA on here,
And EA is not
they've
giving
never
them
sent me a
anything
damn thing.
free. This is true.
But I still love them.
Yeah.
Come on, EA.
Ubisoft gave us some free stuff one
Yes.
time. That was pretty nice.
Mhm.
But yeah. Anyway, we should end this.
Yep.
Now.
See you guys.
We'll see you guys next week. If you're watching us on YouTube, I hope this wasn't super annoying or lame. But also, welcome to our podcast.
Yeah, and then you had to see Chris's ugly mug.
Look at it. Isn't it awesome? Woo. All right. Bye, guys.
See it.